Chapter 1039. Li Xingfei understood that the assessment that Wang Lin had set for herself was not simple. In addition to addressing the problems that had always been there, it had also become another test. Under the criticism and questioning eyes of outsiders, it was difficult to always maintain a calm and stable state of mind, and unswervingly work hard and move forward towards the set goal. If she was not confirmed as the chief disciple, it would also form a psychological pressure, which in turn would affect the trial that Wang Lin had prepared for her. Especially in the case that she had failed many trials, the psychological pressure would become greater and greater. As for how to overcome it, it all depended on Li Xingfei herself. However, all her efforts had not been in vain. She had ushered in the day when her bitterness was over and the sweetness had come. "Keep these things." Wang Lin pointed with his finger, and a few streams of light landed in front of Li Xingfei. Li Xingfei fixed her eyes on it and saw that 4 things were silently floating in the air, all emitting a powerful wave of power, especially 3 of them, all of which were yuanying period instruments. The last one was a golden elixir period instrument, but it was a magic sword. It was less than a foot long, and it was not as sharp as a sword. Instead, it exuded a spiritual aura, and its whole body was glowing with red light. Zhu Luan's sacrificial sword. Seeing this short sword, Li Xingfei felt a lot of emotions. This sword was the inherited instrument of Fan Lin Ju. It was not a sacrificial refinement of the sword Dao. Its effect was to help the cultivator cast spells faster and enhance the power of the cultivator's own spells. It was an auxiliary instrument of the golden elixir period, and it did not have any attack power. As a golden elixir period instrument, it did not have any attack power. It was purely an auxiliary effect, so its auxiliary effect could naturally be imagined and was very impressive. Under normal circumstances, this instrument would be inherited by the chief disciple of Fan Lin Ju. If the disciple was confirmed as the chief disciple when he was in the foundation establishment period, then he could get this golden elixir period instrument when he was in the foundation establishment period. It was passed down from generation to generation. Whenever a new chief disciple was established, it would be passed down by the chief disciple of the previous generation. This had become the overall tradition of Xianmen Tianzong, not only in Fan Lin Ju, but also in other cave residences. Moreover, Xiaoyan, Wang Lin, and others coincidentally refined the instrument given by Lin Feng when their cultivation was still low, and used it as an inherited instrument. When Wang Lin was in the foundation establishment and gold core stages, the 2 magic tools that Lin Feng had given him, the 2-pole magnetic rings and the cloud elephant seal, had been completely destroyed the first time he entered the void battlefield. Therefore, Wang Lin went to Lin Feng to ask for 2 magic treasures, one for the nascent soul stage and one for the golden core stage. At that time, of Yuanying and Lin Li Xingfei Xiao Tianzong Lin, Luan Lin period, and the elixir period would be. Lin Wang, Feng, Tuta said. Li Stu Luan said. Li Lin said, Li said. Among them, the golden elixir period instrument was this Zhu Luan sacrificial sword. For the current Li Xingfei, it was still suitable. However, compared to Huang Jinting, who obtained the Tiger Soul Golden Disc when he was in the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, Tang Jun, who obtained the Black Cloud Flag when he was in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, and the head disciples of other caves, Li Xingfei obtained this Zhu Luan's sacrificial sword much later. However, Li Xingfei already knew all of this in her heart. It's not too late to obtain it now. I will make good use of these things, and in the future, pass them on to the 3rd generation head disciple of my Fan Lin residence. She looked at the other side. It was a pale white spirit stone the size of a fist. The surface of the spirit stone was wrapped with black ropes that crisscrossed with each other. Li Xingfei looked carefully and saw many blood-red incantations floating on the surface of the black ropes. This is the time binding curse forbidden stone, right? Li Xingfei guessed. Although she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she had heard Master Wang Lin mention it before. The time-binding curse forbidden stone was a yuanying period instrument that Wang Lin had asked Lin Feng to bestow upon her. When Lin Feng bestowed the instrument to his personal disciples, he had thought about it carefully. He wanted to fit the disciples' actual situation as much as possible in order to achieve the best result. Now that the time-binding curse Forbidden Stone was bestowed, it was naturally not for Wang Lin to use. Therefore, he had to consider the characteristics of Wang Lin's disciples, or what kind of disciples Wang Lin would teach. Although Lin Feng didn't teach the younger disciples personally, he had a general understanding of their situation. The direct disciples of Wang Lin's mortal forest house were all of the same lineage as Wang Lin himself. They were all pure Dharma cultivators. Even if there were disciples who cultivated Dharma cultivations, they were only there to support them. Unlike Xiao Yin, Shi Tianhao, and Yu Hongyan, there were many disciples who were proficient in martial Dao sacred arts. Under such circumstances, what situation did the disciples of Mortal Forest House not like to encounter the most? Similar to the Jade Dragon race and the Peacock race, opponents who had Dharma Break or Forbidden Spell Sacred Arts, or Ancient Heavenly Gates Secret Technique, Reverse Curse Restriction, Lu Yuan's Myriad Phenomenon Mirror, Shadow Demon Dao's Shadow Ancient Mirror, and other sacred arts were the same. Because of this, the Yuaning period instrument that Lin Feng bestowed upon Wang Lin as an inheritance instrument was this time Binding Curse Forbidden Stone. This stone could restrain other people's Dharma spells and sacred arts and break them. If the opponent's Dharma spell was targeted, the time Binding Curse Forbidden Stone could reverse it and help the user turn defeat into victory. Of course, although the effect of the time Binding Curse Forbidden Stone was sharp, there was an upper limit to its ability. How to use it effectively depended on the cultivator's own adaptability. Wang Lin looked at Li Xingfei. With a thought, the time Binding Curse Forbidden Stone and Zhu Luan's sacrificial sword floated into Li Xingfei's hands. Look at you. You already know them? That's right, this is the inheritance instrument of my Mortal Forest House. You're the head of the second-generation direct disciples, so I'll give it to you now. When the head of the third-generation direct disciples is confirmed, you can pass it on. Foundation Establishment Period can get the Zhu Luan Sacrificial Sword. Golden Elixir Period can get the time Binding Curse Forbidden Stone. Li Xingfei quickly took it and nodded. Wang Lin's fingers tapped lightly, and the other two Yuaning period instruments fell into Li Xingfei's hands. These two instruments are treasures specially given to you as the head disciple of my sect. They can enhance your strength and make it convenient for you to travel outside. Li Xingfei looked at the two instruments. These were completely her personal treasures. In the future, when there was a third-generation head disciple, she didn't need to pass it on. The sect would have a new supply. Of course, if she had already formed her nascent soul at that time, she might have to participate in the work of refining the instruments. If she wanted to bestow her own head disciple's instrument to the next head disciple, she could, but it was all voluntary. The two Yuaning period instruments that appeared in Li Xingfei's hands were a dark yellow robe and a pair of rings. These two instruments were personally refined by Wang Lin. The dark yellow robe was called the Underworld Dharma Robe. It could receive the Underworld True Water and produce the effect of both offense and defense. At the most critical moment, this Dharma robe could allow the wearer to transform into Wang Lin's underworld undying body for a short period of time. Thus, it had an extremely powerful protective effect. At the critical moment of a battle, it was a trump card to turn the tables. However, after one transformation, it would take a long time to recover. As for the pair of rings, they were only the size of a palm. One was black and the other was white. The black ring was engraved with the demons of the underworld, while the white ring was engraved with the myriad of phenomena of the heavens. When the two rings were combined, it could stimulate the true meaning of the two extremes of life and death. The black ring represented death and could be used to injure the enemy. It was extremely incisive. If the opponent couldn't defend in time, once the death aura touched their body, they would immediately be in a dangerous situation. The white ring represented life and could be used to help with cultivation. If a cultivator was injured, it could help with treatment. This pair of black and white rings was called the two forgetting rings of life and death. It was also personally refined by Wang Lin. Li Xingfei kept the 4 instruments and thanked Wang Lin. Her current cultivation level was at the later stage of the golden elixir, so her battle strength was also extraordinary. With these treasures, she was like a tiger that had grown wings. Wang Lin shook his head. This is the result of your own hard work. You have a steady and calm temperament, so I won't say much about not being arrogant and impetuous. However, you must remember the trial you passed today. Use this as a warning. In the future, don't relapse and always reflect on yourself. Li Xingfei quickly answered, Disciple will remember master's teachings. I will definitely remember today's harvest. Wang Lin said, All right, let's talk about the second matter now. Li Xingfei nodded. Please tell me, master. Next, I will be studying Taoist techniques with your martial uncles. If you come and listen, it will be another round of training for you. After Wang Lin finished, Li Xingfei was both happy and frightened. Master, the level of your conversation with martial uncles and martial uncles is too high. I'm afraid I can't understand it. She was naturally happy. With the current cultivation level and knowledge of Shaoyin, Wang Lin, and the others, a few words from them would be of great help to her. Although it was called training, it was actually a great benefit. Of course, the prerequisite was that she must be able to understand. Since Wang Lin said that he would be listening, it meant that she could not interrupt and ask questions. Wang Lin would also not explain specifically. How much she could understand would depend on herself. Wang Lin said lightly, It's not the Taoist techniques of our sect, but the Taoist techniques of other sections. We will study and deduce them. Li Xingfei asked curiously, Is it the Buddhist scriptures and the scripture depository and the Taoist techniques of Heaven Gate, Underworld Hall, Reincarnation Sect, etc.? We will learn about all of them. Other than that, we can also deduce the Taoist techniques that are not recorded in the sect. Wang Lin said, For example, the Taishu Temple's Supreme Wang Qing Dao, the Primordial Heart Demon Dispel Incantation of Primordial Demon Cult, etc. Li Xingfei nodded. I will work hard. Wang Lin brought her down the mountain and returned to Fan Lin Residence's courtyard. As they walked, he said, Other than you, there will be other second-generation disciples listening in as well. After listening in, you can also use your own sect's Dao techniques as a foundation to figure out the Dao techniques of other powers and gain the effect of learning from others. However, all of you still have to focus on your own cultivation. So, you just have to attend such listening sessions regularly. Li Xingfei and the rest current realm, as well as the cultivation of Yuhang Yin and the rest, weren't suitable for people like Shaoyin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao to study the Taoist techniques of other sects on a large scale. They could deduce, analyze, and absorb the Taoist techniques of other sects for their own use. However, their foundations were already solid. On the basis of ensuring the cultivation of their own sect's Taoist techniques, they could gain more knowledge and use it as a reference. Li Xingfei replied, I understand, Master, don't worry. Wang Lin nodded and continued. From today onwards, you can start to look for candidates for the third-generation direct disciples. Chapter 1040. The candidate for the third-generation direct disciples' first seat should be Fanga, Li Xingfei said. The person she was talking about was her direct disciple, Chun Fanga. Although he didn't enter the sect early, he had already shown extraordinary potential. Among the third-generation direct disciples, he was quite famous. Wang Lin naturally knew about this person. He nodded. Give him more tests and keep training. Li Xingfei immediately nodded. Yes, disciple understands. Wang Lin said, after the next internal direct disciple competition, if he performs well, we will establish him as the third-generation direct disciple's first seat. You can also pass the Zhu Luan sacrificial sword to him. Chun Fanga had already reached the late stage of foundation establishment. After he was established as the first seat's first seat, the Zhu Luan sacrificial sword would naturally be passed on to him. And when Chun Fanga formed his gold core, the binding curse forbidden stone would also be passed on to him. At the same time, the first seat's magic weapon would also be put on the agenda. A treasure that had just been obtained and had yet to warm up would soon be passed on to someone else. It was depressing to talk about it, But Li Xingfei didn't feel this at all. She was calm, and Wang Lin was the same. Li Xingfei followed behind Wang Lin. They didn't break through the void. The master and disciple passed through the seven-color bridge between the mortal forest residence and the main peak of Mount Yujing. They walked all the way up Mount Yujing. As they walked, a dark yellow path appeared under the feet of Wang Lin's great devil avatar. It was the Yellow Springs path. When Wang Lin took a step, the path under his feet returned to normal. When Li Xingfei took another step, the path turned into the Yellow Springs path again. Li Xingfei's expression was the same as usual. Her eyes were calm, but she was constantly trying to figure out the concept. Although she was Wang Lin's disciple for the longest time, it was rare for her to teach him verbally. She naturally had to firmly grasp the opportunity. The master and disciple continued on their way. After ascending Yujing Mountain, the Yellow Springs Road's Biliang slope disappeared. The two of them walked toward the Tower of Scriptures one after the other. As he walked, he encountered a dark-skinned young man. This young man clearly had the characteristics of a prairie native. He was Zhu Yi's disciple, Irosa. Behind Irosa was a beautiful woman. However, her expression was somewhat cold and stubborn. At this moment, this woman's cultivation had already formed the golden elixir, reaching the early golden elixir realm. From afar, he heard Irosa's voice. Within 7 days, go down the mountain and collect a 9-revolution butterfly orchid, 10 tailless redfish, and 100 Du Yuan insects. If you can't complete them, you don't have to return to the mountain. The girl said indifferently, I can finish it in less than 7 days. When Li Xingfei heard this, she sighed inwardly. If others didn't say it, who would have imagined that this was a pair of master and disciple? It was as if they were enemies, and as a master, Rosa seemed to be deliberately making things difficult for his disciple. In the celestial sect of wonders where the relationship between master and disciple was relatively harmonious, it could be considered a rare anomaly. The 9-revolution butterfly orchid was a type of spirit herb produced in Mount Kunlun. It was extremely rare, and most of the places where it grew were relatively remote and hidden, making it difficult to find. Irosa didn't push things too far. This was indeed the flower's flowering season. But if a cultivator in the early golden elixir realm wanted to find this flower in the vast mountains, it would take a lot of effort. It wasn't difficult to find it, but to find it within 7 days would be a test. In particular, the task that Irosa assigned was not just to find the 9-revolution butterfly orchid. Finding the tailless redfish and the Du Yuan insect was not easy either. Finding 1 or 2 would be easy, but finding 10 tailless redfish and 100 Du Yuan insects would be quite difficult. The most outrageous thing was that these things could be found in Xianmin Tianzong, and Irosa himself was not in urgent need of them. But the cold girl didn't seem to have any objections to this, and even her gaze didn't waver. She was Irosa's personal disciple, Meng Honglu. She was a disciple that entered Xianmin Tianzong's sect for the 3rd time 7 years ago. Later, she passed the direct disciple test and became a 3rd-generation direct disciple of Qiantian Palace. Her master at that time was Irosa. She didn't become a 2nd-generation direct disciple, but a 3rd-generation direct disciple. At that time, she once said that if she had known this, she would have chosen Yang Qing's Nirvana Paradise as her master. Because at that time, the strongest of the 2nd-generation direct disciples, Zhou Yunsong, was there. Of course, this was what she muttered in private. But at that time, Irosa was in the late stage of foundation establishment and was about to form his core. She didn't have any qi condensation cultivation, so even if she was muttering to herself, Irosa still heard it. When Irosa heard this, he didn't get angry. Instead, he called Meng Honglu over and asked her on the spot. Meng Honglu was silent for a moment, then said in front of Irosa, if she could choose, she wanted to become the disciple of the strongest. When Irosa heard this, he didn't get angry, but laughed instead. The disciple can choose the master, and the master can naturally choose the disciple. If you aren't the most outstanding among your peers, what right do you have to demand that your master be the most outstanding? I want to be the most outstanding one, Meng Honglu replied. Irosa laughed disdainfully. Anyone can just say it. Meng Honglu pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Irosa glanced at her. If there's anything you want to say, feel free to say it. There's nothing you can't say here. Perhaps some people will think that your words are disgraceful, that you have no sense of seniority, that you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, that you're stupid to contradict your master on the first day you become his disciple. But I won't. I just want to see if what you say is empty talk. I want to see if you can do what you said. When Meng Honglu heard this, she took a deep breath. Silently, she repeated, I want to be the most outstanding one. Irosa stared at her silently, then nodded. I'll wait and see. Since you are my disciple, I will naturally teach you everything I know. But how much you can learn will depend on yourself. From then on, Meng Honglu focused on learning under Irosa. But what kind of person was Irosa? Meng Honglu suffered under his tutelage, and the hardship she endured was definitely the greatest among the 3 generations of direct disciples. But Meng Honglu was indeed unyielding. No matter how Irosa made things difficult for her, she gritted her teeth and persevered. Not only did she want to accomplish her goal, she wanted to accomplish it well enough, better than what Irosa wanted. Irosa also never hid anything. He taught her everything he knew, and even went to Zhu Yi to ask him to test Meng Honglu in advance and teach her the Book of Tao and Virtue. As the first direct disciple of the 3rd generation, Meng Honglu did not disappoint Irosa. She became the first to form her gold core among the 3rd generation direct disciples, and her cultivation was also extraordinary. This stubborn pair of master and disciple lived together for many years. At the beginning, Yang Tai, Tan Yinqing, Zhuge Wanxiu, and even Li Xingfei were quite dissatisfied with Irosa's teaching methods. But under the circumstances that Zhu Yi did not interfere, Irosa insisted on doing things his own way. Meng Honglu did not say anything, nor did she raise any objections, so they could only let her do as she pleased. By now, Li Xingfei was even somewhat used to it. If one day, this pair of master and disciple suddenly fell in love with each other, she would feel that the whole world was not real. Irosa gave Meng Honglu a new task. Hearing Meng Honglu's reply, he didn't even turn his head as he said nonchalantly, "Oh, that's good. In that case, bring everything back to the mountain in 6.5 days." Meng Honglu's expression did not change at all. She calmly said, "Okay." Irosa led Meng Honglu forward, and when he saw Wang Lin and Li Xingfei, he immediately stopped and bowed. Third martial uncle. Meng Honglu also bowed. This disciple greets third martial uncle, greets martial uncle Li. Dispense with the formalities? Wang Lin glanced at them. Are you going to the scripture repository? Irosa nodded. I'm going to choose a divine ability for her to increase her strength. I plan on choosing the 9 heavens formless astral wind. In the sect, Wang Lin was in charge of the scripture repository. However, Irosa did not need to specially report to Wang Lin. The reason why he had made it clear was because he hoped that Wang Lin could give him some pointers and listen to his opinion. Wang Lin glanced at Meng Honglu and nodded. Your judgment is very accurate. Go on. When Irosa and Meng Honglu saw that Wang Lin and Li Xingfei were also walking towards the scripture repository, they simply moved to the side and let Wang Lin go first. Then, they and Li Xingfei followed behind Wang Lin. After glancing at Meng Honglu, Li Xingfei transmitted her voice to Irosa. She is very outstanding. Your painstaking efforts over the years have not been in vain. Irosa laughed nonchalantly. My favorite thing to do is to take care of thorns. However, she is quite stubborn. It will not be easy to break the thorns on her body. However, the more it is like this, the more interested I am. If she was a coward, I wouldn't even bother with her. All these years, Irosa had only had one direct disciple, Meng Honglu. On one hand, he was famous for his radical teaching methods, causing many junior disciples to shrink back when they wanted to take him as their master. On the other hand, the other junior disciples who had entered the heavenly heaven palace were not to his liking. Li Xingfei shook her head silently. If there really was a thorn, then amongst the second-generation direct disciples, Iroza was probably the biggest one. Han Yang's arrogance was hidden under his slipperiness. Most of the time, he did things that others could not grasp. As Huang Jinting grew older, although he was still straightforward, he was no longer as hot-headed as he had been in his youth. The only exception was this dark-skinned young man in front of him. He was obstinate and unruly, and he was still the same as before. In front of the elders of the sect, he would abide by the rules on the surface, but deep down, he was still the same Iroza who would point a dagger at a person's head. Li Xingfei suddenly came to a realization. Right? How is Miaoying doing? I was in closed-door cultivation a while ago and haven't had the time to look for her yet. The person she was talking about was Su Yunxing's younger sister, Su Miaoying. Back then, after returning to the mountain with Zhu Yi and Su Yunsheng, she had also entered the Xianmen Tianzong sect. However, in the sect, she had become her brother's martial niece. In the end, she had become a third-generation direct disciple, learning under the Heavenly Heaven Palace's second-generation head disciple, Yang Tai. You and I both know that Tai teaches disciples. Su Miaoying's progress is not bad. Iroza frowned. However, Su Yunsheng still hasn't contacted her. His whereabouts are still unknown. Chapter 1041. Not long ago, among the earliest disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, Su Yunsheng and Rosa were known as the twin pillars, the most outstanding figures among the second-generation disciples. At that time, the only rival in the eyes of the arrogant Rosa was Su Yunsheng. Beneath Su Yunsheng's humble appearance was an arrogant person, and in terms of opponents, only Iliorza could make him feel immense pressure. The two of them constantly competed with each other, winning and losing, chasing each other. At that time, it was a unique scene in Xianmen Tianzong. But as time passed, Xianmen Tianzong grew stronger and stronger, absorbing more and more geniuses into the sect. Although Su Yunsheng and Rosa were still the top figures among the second-generation disciples, they were no longer as outstanding as before. This was naturally a joyous matter for the celestial sect of wonders as a whole, but for Rosa and Su Yunsheng, they had to adjust their mentality. Otherwise, it would be hard to avoid feeling disappointed or even unbalanced. Dao Yuding was fine, as she was at the late stage of foundation establishment the moment she entered the sect, while they were still qi condensation cultivators. But for Tang Jun, Han Yang, Huang Jinting, Zhou Yunsong, Yang Tai, Little Lin Tong, and the others who came later, it was more of a blow to them. Su Yunsheng and Rosa were both proud people. Previously, they had been in the lead among the younger disciples of the sect, but later on, they were constantly being caught up to and even surpassed by others. This was undoubtedly a hurdle for them. Of the two prides of the past, one had gone missing, and there was no news of him, while the other had gone from being the strongest to being one of the strongest. But at this time, Rosa's mentality was very calm. Back then, when he was criticized by Meng Honglu behind his back, he did not get angry. Over the years, although Rosa was still arrogant, he was no longer the escaped slave of the grasslands he used to be. If it was when he was young and had yet to enter the celestial sect of wonders, he might have flown into a rage out of humiliation and even drawn his sword against someone when he was made up like this. However, the current Rosa did not care. It wasn't that he had no initiative and lost his drive, but that he could now direct his drive and arrogance to the right path. During the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, he knew that he would most likely lose if he fought against Zhou Yunsong. However, he did not hate Zhou Yunsong. Instead, he made up his mind to work harder and improve himself. In the past, he was second only to Dao Yuding in the core formation realm. Now, he had already advanced to the late stage of the Golden Elixir realm, faster than Liu Xiaofeng and Li Xingfei. Meng Honglu hoped to become the strongest among the third-generation disciples. But how could Rosa not want to become the strongest among the second-generation disciples? Even though Tang Jun, Han Yang, Zhou Yunsong, and the others kept appearing, even though they displayed potential that far surpassed Eloza's, Eloza had never given up on this idea. Instead, He did his best to advance towards his goal. He was still competitive, still sharp, and still proud. This was his conviction, and it had never wavered. The current Aloza naturally would not be like before. In his eyes, there was only Su Yunsheng as an opponent, and no one else. However, he was still brooding over the fact that he had not heard from Su Yunsheng for so many years. This had nothing to do with cultivation, but because of another person. Even if Aloza did not realize Zhuge Wanqiu's feelings for Su Yunsheng back then, he had already understood it after so many years. With Aloza's personality, he naturally could not be happy with the fact that they were hanging around without understanding each other. He had never thought that he would not only have to compete with Su Yunsheng on the path of cultivation, but also on the path of love. Li Xingfei looked at Aloza and sighed in her heart. She said, "Second martial uncle said that senior apprentice brother Su's situation is completely under his control. It's just that he will not be able to return to the mountain in the short term." Aloza's expression was slightly gloomy. "I know. I especially want to ask Master a few times, but Master still refused to tell me where Su Yunsheng is and what he is doing. Perhaps he's going to undergo some special training or to complete some dangerous mission given by the sect." Li Xingfei guessed. "So it is not convenient for him to tell us the specific situation, and he has no way of contacting him." Aloza snorted and did not say anything else. As the group walked, two figures walked past them. When they saw Wang Lin and the others, they hurriedly stopped and saluted. "Disciple greets, third Martial Uncle Tianbi, Martial Uncle Tianchi." The person who came bowed to Wang Lin, Aloza, and Li Xingfei. He was a tall and slender young man with a calm and kind temperament. His facial features were handsome, but what was more special was that his hair and eyebrows were the color of frost. The person beside him was a young girl whose facial features were somewhat similar to his. Her eyebrows were as beautiful as a painting, and her eyes were lively. However, at this moment, she was also obediently bowing to Wang Lin and the others. This young girl's hair and eyebrows were the same color as the young man's, like frost. Wang Lin also had an impression of these two people. They were a pair of biological brother and sister. The older brother was called Yi Xinhui, and his master was the second-generation true disciple of the Qiantian Palace, Yang Tai. The younger sister was called Yi Xinxuan, and she was the second-generation true disciple of the Desolate Heaven Valley, Zhuge Wanqiu. Like Meng Honglu, the two of them were disciples of the Celestial Gate 7 years ago, when Xianmin Tianzong opened the gate for the third time. At that time, the older brother was 15, and the younger sister was only an 8-year-old little girl. At that time, they did not look like this. The color of their hair was the same as most people, black. The current situation was because they were cultivating Dao techniques and stimulated their special constitutions, which gradually changed the color of their hair. The brother and sister both had a relatively rare type of wood spirit body, called the Jade Tree body, also known as the Jade Tree Silver body. Although it was not as good as the Pure Yang, Pure Yin, or Tang Jun's Azure Flame Emperor body, it had its own uses and was not inferior to Dao Yuding and the others. Other than having a good innate talent, the brother and sister were also very diligent in their cultivation. In terms of cultivation speed, they were also the best among the third-generation true disciples. At ease, Wang Lin said calmly, and then continued to walk forward. Li Xingfei looked at them and smiled. "Secretly bringing your younger sister to the Medicine Valley to get special treatment?" A smile appeared on Yi Xinhui's face. "This disciple does not dare. Before coming here, I have already reported to Master." Beside him, Yi Xinchuan lowered her head, a little embarrassed. The Medicine Valley was originally managed by Yang Qing, who had left the mountain to practice medicine. Knowing that she would not be able to return for a long time, she specially handed over the task to Lin Feng. Lin Feng had originally planned to hand the task to Xiao Yan. After all, his Fun Tingyao faction had the most alchemy disciples, but in the end, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and refused. No one understood his group of monkeys better than him. If he let them manage the Medicine Valley, it would undoubtedly be like handing a flock of sheep to the wolves. In the end, the task of the Medicine Valley was handed over to Zhu Yi. As the younger generation disciples gradually grew up, these management tasks would naturally be undertaken by the younger generation disciples. Yixin Huwei had a natural wood spirit body and was very close to plants. Among the third-generation true disciples, he was the main one stationed in the Medicine Valley. Li Xingfei smiled and nodded, then left with Wang Lin. Ying Rosa also looked at Yixin Huwei and nodded. Both of them were from the Qiantian Palace, so he understood this young man very well. The other party was very outstanding, but his personality was not to his liking. Meng Honglu still had an indifferent look on her face. She only bowed to Yixin Huwei and his sister, then left with Ying Rosa. The Yi siblings had interacted with this fellow disciple quite a few times, so they naturally knew what kind of person she was. Thus, they did not take her cold attitude to heart. After bidding farewell to Wang Lin and the others, they continued walking towards the Medicine Valley. Brother, did martial uncle Tianbi give senior sister Honglu another difficult task again? Yixin Xuan was much livelier now that they were not in front of the elders. She smiled and asked her brother. Yixin Huwei lightly flicked her forehead. Martial uncle Tianbi knows what he's doing. Let's not talk about it. Yixin Xuan clutched her forehead and made a face at her brother. Seeing his sister's carefree expression, Yixin Huwei could not help but smile. He softly said to himself, "It's good to have a family." When he was 8 years old and his sister was only 1 year old, their parents passed away, leaving the two of them to depend on each other for survival. At a young age, he worked as a gardener in someone else's house, raising his sister, who was both a brother and a father. When his sister was a little older, she washed clothes for others when she was still a child. That was in the manner of a wealthy family in the Great Qin dynasty. In the beginning, the master of the family was rather lenient. However, as the master's daughter gradually grew up, she began to bully Yixin Xuan, who was her age. Yixin Xuan, who had been obedient and sensible since young, did not mention this matter to Yixin Huwei for a long time. In the end, Yixin Huwei only found out about it himself. If that was the case, it would have been fine if the Yi siblings, who had been taken care of by the master of the family when they were young, endured it. Who knew that there was a descendant of the main branch of the family who liked young girls. He extended his claws towards Yixin Xuan, who was gradually growing up. In the end, Yixin Huwei's brother, Yixin Huwei, immediately flew into a rage and stabbed him. This undoubtedly caused trouble. The brother and sister could only flee that night and hide in the forest. One day, when Yixin Huwei left the forest to sell firewood and some common medicinal ingredients, he accidentally learned of Xianmin Tianzong's deeds. Harboring a sliver of hope, he brought his sister to find a disciple site set up in the Great Qin dynasty when Xianmin Tianzong opened its doors for the third time. In the end, after passing through layers of selection tests, they successfully entered Xianmin Tianzong's sect. The experiences before and after entering the sect were like two different worlds for the Yi siblings. Even today, when Yixin Huwei recalled the past, he still felt as if it was a lifetime ago. He involuntarily turned his head to look at the huge, mysterious heaven treasure tree on Jade Capital Mountain. The huge crown that covered the sky was like his own sect, shielding everyone in the sect from wind and rain, giving them a brand new life. "It's so good to have a home," Yixin Huwei murmured. Yixin Xuan turned his head to look at him. "Brother, what are you mumbling about?" Yixin Huwei came back to his senses and smiled. "I'm saying, don't eat all the stacked nether grass in the medicinal valley later, or else I won't be able to answer to Master and Grandmaster." "Brother, what are you saying?" Yixin Xuan was instantly indignant, while Yixin Huwei couldn't stop laughing. In the depository of scriptures, watching the siblings disappear into the entrance of the medicinal valley, Xiao Yin smiled at Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. Not bad. Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao couldn't help but smile. Beside them, Wang Lin himself also had a faint smile on his face. "All right, let's continue." Xiao Yin clapped his hands and looked at his junior brothers. "Let's put the supreme Wang Qing Dao aside for now. What third junior brother mentioned just now seems very interesting. Chapter 1042. Xiao Yin looked at Wang Lin and said, "In other words, the core of karma is that every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. When you know all the conditions, influencing factors, internal rules and connections of matter, you can deduce a definite result of the matter, or use this information to deduce the cause from the effect and accurately trace back to what happened in the past. Similarly, by knowing the cause and effect, you can deduce what will happen in the future. The past and the future are undeniably displayed in front of you, and everything is actually destined from the beginning. We just have to follow the rules step by step. What we personally think of as chance and impermanence are all inevitable from the perspective of the world. We can't see through it because we are ignorant and know little." Wang Lin nodded. "In the past, I received guidance from Zen Master Dade and comprehended the true meaning of life and death. In the end, I comprehended the last realm of the four symbols realm, the realm of karma. There is a great power in Buddhism called the three lives karma curse. It unravels the secrets of the past, present, and future. It is known as the Vairocana palm and the Buddhist kingdom in the palm. Although it is not a powerful magic that can be used directly in actual combat, it has its own unique uses. The meaning is to use the past as the cause to trigger the present effect, and then use the present as the cause to trigger the future effect. In this way, karma continues, and life and death are endless. This is the appearance of the circulation of the bewildering world." Wang Lin's expression was slightly strange. Buddhism has 9 senses, or 9 senses. The 9th sense is known as the Ajura sense, also known as the Bodhi enlightenment, the Buddha nature trueness. With a single thought, it is omniscient in the past, present, and future, an existence that completely transcends time and space. Everyone else's expression also became strange. Shi Tianhao looked around and said, "In other words, if someone cultivates this magic to the extreme, he doesn't need to be in the same era as us and doesn't need to stand in front of us. He can also know what we're doing, what we're going to do, what we look like, and what we have done with just a thought." According to the Buddhist scriptures, the Gautama Buddha had reached this realm in the past, Zhu Yi said calmly. But that was most likely an exaggeration to put gold on the ancestral master's face. According to the core concept of Buddhism, no one in the world can be invincible. Only karma and karma are eternal. As long as Gautama Buddha himself is still in this world, he will be tied down by karma and karma. He is destined to be unable to reach that height, unless one day he completely transcends this world. At that time, when he looks back at the world, perhaps he can truly be omniscient and omniscient for 3 lifetimes. However, if there really is someone who can reach this stage, they wouldn't need to achieve the great Tao of karma like the Buddha. They would probably be able to achieve omnipotence in this world as well. Among the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, Zhu Yi and Wang Lin had the deepest understanding of the Buddhist orthodoxy and had the most knowledge. Zhu Yi shook his head. Therefore, even the Buddhists themselves admit that in the 3 lifetimes, the past and present are easy to grasp, but the future is the most difficult to control. Wang Lin said, but they also believe that it is because their cultivation is not deep enough, or that they do not have a clear grasp of the various rules that exist in karma. As long as they can completely understand the great Tao of karma, they can transcend everything and know everything. Li Xingfei listened to the conversation of Wang Lin and the others seriously, trying to comprehend it with her mind. However, when she heard this, she felt a little lost. If everything in the world is in karma, doesn't that mean that everything is predestined? The past is predestined, the present is predestined, and the future is also predestined? At the thought of this, Li Xingfei suddenly felt sorrow and despair. She, who had always been steady and polite, could not help but interrupt and ask, since everything is predestined, doesn't that mean we don't have to do anything? Xiao Yin and the others did not mind and turned to look at her. Wang Lin said unhurriedly, because you do not do anything now, you will get one result in the future. If you do something, you will get another result. The result will be different, but that is because the reason is different. Now that you know the reason, the result is inevitable. Li Xingfei breathed a sigh of relief. That is still determined by what I do now, what kind of future I will have in the future. Wang Lin nodded without batting an eyelid. That is true, but what determines what you do now? Li Xingfei blinked. My own thoughts. Wang Lin continued to ask. You have an idea now, put it into action, and get a result you want in the future. Then, what made you have this idea now? Li Xingfei opened her mouth to answer, but she suddenly paused. She could not say anything, and a look of realization and fear appeared in her eyes. You've thought of it? Wang Lin nodded. Your past experiences, the environment you grew up in, and many other factors have shaped your current personality and way of thinking. Your current personality and way of thinking, combined with your current environment and other factors, have determined your thoughts when facing a certain matter. Then, this thought of yours, combined with the various factors in the future, will come together to get a result. The past, the present, and the future, apart from your thoughts, all other factors are the same as your thoughts. They have their own cause and effect. Wang Lin finally said, Cause and effect continue. Endless life and death, endless reincarnation, intertwining and superimposing, forming a vast and complicated world of living beings. This is the concept of the three worlds karma mantra of Buddhism, which is also what the Buddhists call the Great Tao of Karma. Using some words in the secular world, you can also call it fate. Li Xingfei was at a loss. This is once when I first comprehended the karma realm, I also felt sorrow, unwillingness, despair, and then hatred just like you. After Wang Lin's great demon avatar brought Li Xingfei to the scripture tower, he went to find Lin Feng to open the gate of Star Sea and entered the desolate ancient Star Sea to cultivate. At this moment, his main body looked at his disciple calmly. Tianqi, you have only just experienced it today, but I have been trying to figure out these principles all these years. Wang Lin turned to look at Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and Shi Tianhao. Their eyes flashed slightly, and they were a little solemn, but their expressions were calm. The Buddhist orthodoxy was mysterious, and the great Tao of Karma had reached the extreme. It seemed omnipotent and omniscient, but they were not superstitious. These principles originated from a Buddha, but the Buddha did not necessarily mean that they were correct. If they had all cultivated the Buddhist Dharma to this stage, then they naturally had no doubts about it and would see it as the foundation of their own beliefs and Zen hearts. But a pity that they were not. Even Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, who had the most knowledge of the Buddhist Dharma, were only references. I'm not afraid to laugh at you. My Yellow Springs fifth art already has some ideas, Wang Lin said slowly. Xiao Yin and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this. Oh, Wang Lin's own Yellow Springs secret art had already spawned the fourth art, Emperor Yan's Hall, before he had proven his primordial spirit Tao. Now that Wang Lin had proven his primordial spirit Tao for a long time, he also had some ideas about the fifth art. Wang Lin looked up, and a stone silently appeared above his head. The stone was flat, and its surface was smooth. It could vaguely reflect a person's figure, just like a mirror. This art is called the Stone of Three Lives, Wang Lin said silently. The Bridge of Helplessness led to Emperor Yan's Hall, and in Emperor Yan's Hall, Yin and Yang were judged. The karma of the past life was reflected in the present life, and the Stone of Three Lives reflected the next life. Hearing the name of this mystique, Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and Shi Tianhao immediately knew what Wang Lin's immortality art would look like. This was destined to be a mystique that even if Wang Lin created completely, he would not be able to fully comprehend and use it at his current cultivation level. This was because if this technique was completely perfected, it was very likely to be another elaboration of the three lives karma curse of Buddhism. To reach its peak, the computing ability and the amount of information needed would be an incomparably terrifying number. Within the framework of the great heaven primordial world, it was almost infinite. Wang Lin's gaze returned to Li Xingfei. But when I was studying this mystique, I suddenly had many doubts. doubts about the great Tao of karma, doubts about the myriad principles of heaven and earth, doubts about the 3 lives karma curse, and doubts about my own stone of 3 lives mystique. Li Xingfei looked up at Wang Lin in surprise. Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others were also interested. All of them looked at him. Slowly, Wang Lin said, "Some things are very difficult to explain with karma. I went through an experience when I was young. I'm sorry to say it. Back then, I was still a young boy who had just come of age. I had not yet set foot on the path of cultivation. I did not understand love and longing. Now that I think about it, it's all in the past. At that time, I vaguely thought about someone, but I only thought about it in my heart. I never put it into action. Only I knew about this. That person and I did not know each other, nor did we have any contact. I was unable to interfere with her actions in any way. She did not even know of my existence at all. I also did not deliberately stand on the path of her movements to wait for her. In fact, we were extremely far away from each other, not in the same village at all. And now that I think about it, I can also be sure that I did not do something unconsciously that would cause me to cross paths with her." At this moment, with the strength of Wang Lin's spiritual sense, it was very easy for him to check his memory and confirm these situations. One day, I desperately wanted to be able to see this person, but this desire only stayed in my heart. I still did not put it into action. But at this time, she suddenly appeared in front of me without any warning, passing by me. Wang Lin looked at the distant void outside the scripture depository. This person naturally had her own reasons for appearing in front of me, but I did not have any influence on her at all. Yet my wish came true. In the past few years, I have specially investigated all the possible causes and effects that could be involved in this matter. But in the end, I can be sure that I, or anyone related to me, did not have any direct or indirect influence or interference with her actions. Now that Wang Lin had reached the primordial spirit realm, it would undoubtedly not be difficult for him to investigate the matters of the secular world, even if it had been more than 10 years. Li Xingfei murmured to herself, "Results will come from sincerity." This seems to be a coincidence and chance, but it is completely different from the coincidence and chance described in the explanation of the great path of karma. At that time, the effect now was not the result of my own past cause. Wang Lin said slowly, "If there is a cause, it is what the heart thinks. But can a mortal's thoughts and ideas interfere with the great path of karma and create results out of thin air? Although this kind of thing is extremely rare in the long river of history, there have been many cases. My own personal experience is not the only one." Chapter 1043. Compared to a mortal's life, such an experience might not be common. Many people might not even encounter it in their entire lives. But in the long river of history, from the perspective of billions of people, it's not rare. Silently, Wang Lin said, "Does this kind of thing violate karma? If it doesn't, how can it be explained? This is what I'm puzzled about." Xiao Yin said, "It's true. I've heard that there were twin brothers who lived thousands of miles away from each other. One day, the elder brother drowned and died. At the same time, the younger twin brother was sitting peacefully at home when he suddenly had difficulty breathing and suffocated for no reason." Shi Tianhao nodded. "I've also heard that there was an old woman who went on a long journey with her only son. She met with an accident outside and died while climbing a mountain. Almost at the same time, the old woman's beloved jade pendant mysteriously shattered. If we cultivators might be able to sense it because of our bloodline magic power, but how can a mortal have such a sharp sudden inspiration? That jade pendant isn't some spiritual item." Xiaoyan followed up and said, "These things that we've heard of may be false rumors. We also didn't carefully verify it like you, third junior brother, and confirm that we've eliminated all interfering factors. But this kind of thing isn't just one or two things. When a number reaches a certain level, it can't be explained as pure accidents. And these seemingly accidental things all violate the Buddhist Tao of karma to varying degrees. The Tao of karma can't be used to turn accidental things into inevitable things. Zhu Yi pondered for a moment and looked at Wang Lin, third junior brother. Although your karma realm is integrated with the Buddhist Tao of karma, it itself seems to be shaking the Tao of karma from the foundation. Xiao Yin and Shi Tianhao also looked at the white-haired young man in front of them. Although Wang Lin's karma realm was integrated with the Tao of karma, the closing of the gate to the karma realm and reversing the karma lines to suppress one's own karma was the opposite of the Buddhist three worlds karma curse. The karma in the timeline was not established. The cause fell behind the effect. Now, forcefully reversing the effect would even change the past. Although it was a very superficial and even violent interference, it truly shook the principles of the three lives karma curse from the very foundation. After a moment of silence, Wang Lin said, I know. It's precisely because of this that the doubts in my heart became heavier and heavier when I was trying to comprehend the three life stones' divine ability. The causality realm and the three life stone are both mystic arts that I created through my own comprehension. However, the two of them are in conflict. Wang Lin said slowly, when I close the gate to the realm of karma, it will reverse karma to a certain extent. However, I still don't fully understand the logic behind it. I can only make a preliminary judgment that this is the result of the great Tao contained in our sect's heavenly virtue scripture. Wang Lin said, I want to figure out the reason behind it. That's why I recalled what happened when I was young and went back to verify it. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, Fortunately, Zen Master Dade is not here. Putting aside the fact that their discussion was questioning Buddhism's great Tao of karma, Wang Lin's words earlier revealed that the heavenly virtue scripture had forcefully suppressed Buddhism. Hearing this, Wang Lin could not help but smile. I haven't told Zen Master Dade about these thoughts of mine. Xiaoyan gently rubbed the space between his eyebrows. There should be a reason for the contradiction. To be precise, it's not that there's a loophole in the Tao of karma. It can only be said that there are thousands of principles in the world, and the Tao of karma is not the only principle. Things that the Tao of karma cannot explain can be explained by other principles. However, Buddha's idea, or rather, Buddhism's original view, that one can be omniscient and omnipotent by comprehending the karmic force of karma, using the Tao of karma to explain the laws and principles of the entire world, as well as the changes of creation, is destined to fail. Zhu Yi said, for example, becoming a Buddha on the spot is indeed extraordinary. Its Tao of karma is also unique. In fact, although this Tao can't really understand all Dharma with one Dharma, it is extremely inclusive and can explain many Dharma practices. Many principles of heaven and earth can be turned into the Tao of karma and explained anew. From a certain point of view, if this Tao really reaches its limit, most of the great Tianyuan world is indeed within its scope, but it's still not everything. Therefore, practicing this Tao may be able to reach an extremely high level, but it's impossible to transcend this world with the current foundation. Zhu Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. Back then, Buddha went to the Sea of Death. Was this also one of the reasons? If there's a Buddhist cultivator who could maintain his Zen heart and seek further breakthroughs by himself after his understanding of the great Tao of karma was shaken, I'm afraid that only the founding ancestor could do so. Wang Lin said, it's hard to say what happened back then. There's such a possibility, but it could also be because of other things. Xiaoyan thought for a moment and said, let's not spread today's discussion to Zen Master Dade's ears first. Wait until we've figured out the door, or at least have a general idea, then we'll tell Zen Master Dade. In the Tao of Buddhism, the strongest external magical power was the Maharokana palm. But for Buddhism's Zen martial arts ideology, it was only a method to subdue external demons. The core of Buddhism was always the Tao of karma, and the Five Directions Buddhist Sutras were closely related to this. Whether it was practicing the immovable Buddhist Sutra or the infinite light Buddhist Sutra, like Zen Master Dade, the core of Buddhism involved the Tao of karma. If this was shaken, the Buddhist cultivator's Zen heart was likely to be shaken as well. This was the foundation of Buddhism. If it was shaken, even if it wasn't as miserable as when the Tao heart of the Taishu temple was broken, it wouldn't be good. Ever since Zen Master Dade entered Xian Gate Sky Sect as a guest elder, he has put in a lot of effort. Normally, he is kind and does not compete with others. Even after Xiao Yin and the rest proved their primordial spirit, they were also very respectful to him. When Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao heard this, they all nodded and said, "Of course." Li Xingfei, who was at the side, quickly bowed, indicating that she had heard Xiao Yan's instructions and would definitely not leak the information. There are thousands of great Tao in the world, and they are really wonderful beyond words. Each has its own mystery. Xiao Yan couldn't help but praise, and the faces of Zhu, Yi, and the others all showed a deep expression of the same feeling. In the following days, besides teaching their own disciples, Xiao Yin and the others focused on practicing the Tao of their own Heavenly Virtue Sutra. Then, using this as a foundation, they deduced the Tao of Supreme Wang Qing, deduced the Tao of Yin and Yang of the Void, figured out the Tao Karma of Buddhism, and comprehended the Tao of other sections. The four of them had a very rich harvest. Not to mention whether there was an increase in magic power, but in the cultivation of Tao, as well as the understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth, they had made great progress. Lin Feng saw their performance and felt gratified in his heart. The thing that made him most gratified was that the four disciples had their own understanding of the Yin and Yang Unity Sutra that he had taught them. Their understanding was not exactly the same as Lin Feng's explanation of the Yin and Yang Unity Sutra, but it had incorporated their own understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth, allowing Lin Feng to look forward to their future development. After leaving the Brontosaurus clone and the divine god of battle clone on the mountain, Lin Feng's main body rose and traveled across the rift, before finally arriving at the Eastern Ocean. He passed through the entrance of the Yinghai Passage and entered the Yinghai Ocean, walking in the illusions of the ocean. With a thought from Lin Feng, the white clouds in front of him dispersed, revealing a vast black ocean that seemed to be floating in the air. The waves were over 100 zhang high, even though there was no wind. It served as a contrast to the giant island at the center of the Black Ocean, which was none other than Mount Penglai. The island had been refined by Lin Feng, thus the surrounding ocean was no longer an obstacle to him. Lin Feng ascended the island as if he was walking on flat ground and arrived at the hall on the mountain. In the empty hall, there was only a tall youth sitting cross-legged. Silently, he breathed in and out and cultivated. This youth was naturally the human youth of the past, Luo Yao. Now, he was a member of the Yudu demon race, Grand Luo Yudu. There was a faint glow around his body. His corporeal body was still not a real corporeal body, but one formed by the heavenly scarlet golden pearl. However, after many years of cultivation, Grand Luo could already control this transformation. Although there was still a time limit, Grand Luo's movements were much more free. For example, he had changed his appearance to that of a human, instead of that of a Yuda beast. Even though he had accepted his origins and recalled many things, the origin heavenly immortal still cherished his life as a human. The human form he was currently in was still that of a youth of 15 or 16 years old 7 years ago in the Great Thousand World, before his body had changed. Seeing Lin Feng enter, Grand Luo hurriedly stopped his cultivation and bowed. "Master Lin, dispense with the formalities." Lin Feng waved his hand and sized up Grand Luo. Grand Luo was currently in the form of the heavenly scarlet golden pearl, and still had the cultivation of a late-stage demon king. If he wanted to achieve the realm of the indestructible demon soul, he had to have a real corporeal body again. Both Lin Feng and Grand Luo knew that to Grand Luo, the most perfect corporeal body would be to find a way to reconstruct the body of Yudu. However, that wasn't easy, especially since there wasn't a second Yuda beast in the Great Thousand World. Not to mention taking over a body, they didn't even have a reference sample to create a temporary replacement. However, both Lin Feng and Grand Luo knew that the Yuda beasts weren't extinct. On the contrary, they could descend upon the Great Thousand World again at any time. That was why Lin Feng and Grand Luo weren't in a hurry. Although Grand Luo had no hope of achieving the indestructible demon soul, he still cultivated patiently and tempered his magic power. He built an incomparably solid foundation and prepared to soar into the heavens in the future. Compared to the temporary stagnation in his cultivation, the biggest problem for Grand Luo was actually loneliness and confusion about his own future. Lin Feng didn't have any good solutions to that. He once suggested that Grand Luo should simply stay on Jade Capital Mountain, but Grand Luo rejected it. Loneliness wasn't what he wanted, but before he could clearly determine his future, he would rather endure it. Luckily, cultivating on Mount Penglai was beneficial to him, and it didn't delay anything. This kind of training in solitude actually helped him improve his willpower and discern his own heart. After Lin Feng pointed out some of the problems Grand Luo faced in his cultivation, Grand Luo started to meditate and cultivate again. Lin Feng lightly clapped his hands, and the entire Mount Penglai rumbled. 9 streams of pure, immortal energy circulated within the mountain, incomparably pure, incomparably beautiful, gathering together towards the great hall on the mountain. Chapter 1044. The 9 strands of immortal qi gathered in front of Lin Feng, who was in the palace on the immortal mountain. With the 9 qis on him, Lin Feng's body seemed to be shrouded in a layer of 9-colored halo. He formed a seal with both hands and changed his hand sign. Then, he took a step back and escaped from the 9-colored halo. However, a faint light silhouette of him remained where he was, intertwining with the 9-colored halo and gradually showing signs of fusing. That light silhouette was faint and barely visible in the air. One could only vaguely make out that its facial features were similar to Lin Feng's. The light silhouette closed its eyes with a calm expression. Silently, it formed a seal with both hands and stood where it was. The 9 qis of the immortal mountain circled around its body, finally turning into a 9-colored divine light. It was Mount Penglai's unique 9 qis Great Golden Hall Vacuum Divine Light. This divine light merged with the light silhouette that Lin Feng had left behind, causing the light silhouette to become more and more condensed. The 9 strands of immortal qi on Mount Penglai continuously gathered towards this light silhouette. It was as if 9 huge chains were wrapped around the light silhouette, or as if they were connected to the 9 paths of heaven and earth. Lin Feng sat down in a lotus position. As he formed a seal with both hands, streams of magic power were infused into the light silhouette. The light silhouette that was originally the height of a normal person began to grow taller. Soon it exceeded 10 feet. Its height gradually slowed down, but it was still growing. I used the 9 strands of vital qi condensed from the essence of heaven and earth on Mount Penglai to refine this clone. It also coincides with the meaning of heaven and earth are me. Lin Feng thought, if it's the same as what I expected, it means that my previous deduction was correct. However, refining this clone would take a long time. It could not be completed in a short time. Fortunately, Lin Feng was not in a hurry at all. The process of refining the clone was also very beneficial for his own cultivation of the Tao. The refinement of the clone was mainly on Mount Penglai. Later on, when it was on the right track, it would not matter even if he left Mount Penglai for a period of time. After Zenith Luo ended his cultivation, he looked curiously at the light silhouette in front of Lin Feng. Master Lin, this is Lin Feng smiled. This is me using the 9 strands of Mount Penglai to refine a clone. However, I'm still in the process of figuring it out, and some things are not yet complete. He looked at the grand heavenly immortal and smiled, saying, once this method is perfected, I'll teach it to you. You can use the same method to refine a clone. This method shouldn't be limited to the situation where your true body doesn't have a physical body at the moment. With such a clone, it'll be much easier for you to move around. Zenith Luo smiled in embarrassment. Of Master Lin is joking. Of you must. Of. Use your demon power to figure it out on the side. It's good for your training. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head, his attention returning to the light and shadow in front of him. Zenith Luo sat cross-legged on the ground as well. He extended a strand of qi and carefully wrapped it around the clone Lin Feng was refining, silently probing and sensing it. Zenith Heaven obeyed and also sat cross-legged on the ground, sending out a thread of demonic energy and carefully wrapping it around the clone that Lin Feng was currently refining, quietly probing and sensing. After a while, Zenith Luo sat cross-legged on the ground as well. He extended a strand of qi and carefully wrapped it around the clone that Lin Feng was refining. Lin Feng then pushed it forward. As time continued to pass, when the height of the shadow in front of Lin Feng exceeded 30 feet, Lin Feng faintly smiled, his two hands coming together and then pushing forward. As time passed, when the height of the clone in front of Lin Feng exceeded 10 feet, Lin Feng smiled and made a hand seal before pushing it forward. The clone trembled slightly before returning to calmness. Meanwhile, Lin Feng himself stood up. "Master Lin, you're leaving?" Zenith Luo opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. "What comes next is some grinding. When this clone grows to almost 90 feet tall, I'll come back and continue refining it." He turned and walked out of the palace. "Focus on your cultivation from now on." When he reached the palace's entrance, he stopped and turned to look at Zenith Luo. Slowly, he said, "An opportunity might appear before you at any time. When it does, you'll need to be strong enough to grasp it." Zenith Luo took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Zenith Luo understands. Master Lin, don't worry." Lin Feng exited the Great Hall, stepping on the void and walking between heaven and earth. He looked at the enormous Mount Penglai, looked at the 9 invisible streams of air converging together into the Great Hall, and above the Great Hall, a 9-color divine light faintly illuminated the heaven and earth. The great Tao of all things in the world is truly filled with endless mysteries. Lin Feng smiled. "The more I know, the stronger this feeling becomes." He turned and flew away, traversing through the Ying Sea. After flying for who knows how long, an enormous celestial mountain appeared in front of Lin Feng. In the distorted space around the celestial mountain, there seemed to be tens of millions of transparent jade plates floating crystal clear and smooth. Each of the jade slabs was extremely huge. They were rectangular, and each was half an acre in size. They were stacked together and spread out at the same time, wrapping around the immortal mountain like a sphere. With a point of Lin Feng's finger, the tens of millions of transparent jade slabs started to move, opening up a gap like a door, allowing Lin Feng to enter. This immortal mountain, that was not inferior to Mount Penglai, was naturally Yingzhou. Compared to the secretive Mount Penglai, everyone knew that Yingzhou had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. Some of the resources produced by Yingzhou were like the resources in the mystic heaven realm. They had become powerful bargaining chips for Lin Feng. Most of the time, it was more convenient than using force. A large number of resources were also supplied to Xianmin Tianzong for their own use, boosting the sect's strength. Among the 3 mountains in the Ying Sea, Yingzhou had the most and the strongest illusions. Apart from being an important place for resources, it was also an important place for Xianmin Tianzong's disciples to train. The illusions here could play an important role in the training of the younger disciples. Lin Feng swept his gaze across Yingzhou. As his eyes moved, a few streams of light naturally flew up from the immortal mountain and landed in front of Lin Feng. With a flick of his sleeve, he collected these items and landed beside a sweet spring. This was naturally the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain's jade spring that could nourish Dharma treasures. At the moment, 2 huge black shadows were floating in the spring water. According to normal standards, it's long enough. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. However, there's no harm in waiting a little longer. After saying that, he turned around and left Yingzhou. Lin Feng exited the Ying Sea and walked above the East Sea. His line of sight looked towards the northeast. That was the direction of another realm passageway that connected the vast land of the divine continent and infinite wasteland. Time waits for no man. A storm is coming. I wonder what will be the fuse that will ignite a new war between the two worlds? He turned around and headed west. His footsteps crossed the vast ocean and landed on land again. He passed through the territory of the Great Zhou dynasty and finally stopped at the old site of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. Looking at the dilapidated ruins, Lin Feng's expression was calm. Emperor Huang, you comprehended the Tao of karma in the past and improved your strength. You became a Buddha immediately and established the foundation of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. You're truly a hero of your generation. To you are the millions of Buddhist believers in the world and the Buddhist orthodoxy that you single-handedly established, not interested in worldly possessions and flesh. Lin Feng shook his head, his gaze turning, looking towards the empty sky in the southeast direction, quietly saying, I still have things to do recently, so I won't be going to your place to sit for a while. It's rude of me to pass by and not enter. The sky in the southeast was still empty, but a voice suddenly sounded. Master of the Mystic Gate, you're too kind. The Great Zhou dynasty, and I welcome your presence at any time. Lin Feng nodded. You're too kind. After saying that, he put his hands behind his back and walked away. He disappeared into the void and continued heading west. In the distant plain mountain in the southeast of the Great Thunderclap Monastery ruins, in the Great Zhou dynasty's capital, Tianjing City. Silently, Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou sat on the dragon throne in the main hall of the palace. His fingers gently stroked the armrest of the dragon throne, and he remained silent for a long time. In the past few years, compared to when the Great Zhou dynasty was rapidly expanding, it was much more low-key. It was no longer as aggressive and domineering as before. To say that it was behaving with its tail between its legs would be a bit of an exaggeration. But without a doubt, it was much more cautious in its actions, especially when facing Xianmen Tianzong. It was naturally impossible to retreat without a bottom line. If that happened, the Great Zhou dynasty's unity and the people's hearts would all scatter. But its style of doing things had indeed gone from radical to conservative. When facing the Qin dynasty and other forces, the Great Zhou dynasty's attitude was still unyielding. It only stopped its steps of active expansion and switched from offensive to defensive. After a few years of hiding its strength, biding its time, and careful planning, the Great Zhou dynasty slowly regained its footing. But up until now, the Great Zhou dynasty still maintained a restrained attitude when it came to external relations. But this didn't mean that the ruler and ministers of the Great Zhou dynasty had given up on improving themselves. They were just patiently waiting for the opportunity to rise up again and swallow everything. The next war between the two worlds is an opportunity. Under the torrential situation, no one can completely control the direction of the situation. Liang Pan's gaze was profound. If we can't grasp this opportunity in the war between the two worlds, then we can only wait for the moment when Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple directly fight. If we can't grasp these two opportunities, then the situation is truly worrying. In front of him appeared an illusion of light. In the illusion, there was a handsome middle-aged man with a golden crown on his head, white hair at his temples, sitting cross-legged. It was the Great Zhou dynasty's Xuanji Marquis Zhu Hongwu. Zhu Hongwu opened his eyes at this time. His eyes flashed with a frightening light. He calmly said, "There will definitely be a battle between Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple." The Great Zhou Emperor Liang Pan said, "The opportunity is right in front of us. We have to have enough strength to grasp it. Before, we hoped that the war between the two worlds would come as late as possible. That way our Great Zhou can prepare more and more easily. But now we hope that the war between the two worlds will come as early as possible. Otherwise, our opponents will advance faster than us. Only this kind of unexpected event that no one can control can bring us an opportunity." Liang Pan's expression was calm. "This is very sad and also very humiliating, but it is a fact that we must face. Zhu Hongwu lowered his head. This subject is guilty. Liang Pan shook his head. It is not a crime of war. Hongwu, you don't need to take it to heart. It is just that you must speed up the process of breaking through to the Tao integration realm. The stronger our great Zhou is, the more likely we will be to grasp the opportunity when it comes. Silently, Zhu Hongwu replied, "Reporting to your majesty, this subject has already found the way." Chapter 1045. Liang Pan looked at Zhu Hongwu. Hongwu, you have been stuck in the primordial spear incarnation realm for too long, but it has also allowed you to accumulate a lot of resources. With your talent and the accumulated resources of the great Zhou dynasty, refining your spirit to return to the void, returning to the void, and merging with the Tao should be a matter of time. But now that time is tight, you might be at a disadvantage if you put in all your effort to break through. Zhu Hongwu said, "Please don't worry, your majesty. I know my own situation well. Pressure is always motivation. The more pressing the external environment, the faster I will break through. If not for the pressure from Xianmin Tianzong, I would have spent more time and energy to reach the void and fuse with the Tao." Zhu Hongwu's skin was like white jade, shimmering with light. His eyes were like the deep sea, deep and quiet, but also sparkling. He said calmly, "That unfilial son has attained the primordial spirit Tao and used the power of his master, the master of the Xianmin sect, to achieve great victories in Shu Mountain and Tianhuang continent. Now, he is delusional enough to think that he can go against the rules and do things that are fatherless and childless. In the past 5 years, he has returned to the Marquis residence every year, wanting to do something disgraceful. But because I was in seclusion in the grotto heaven, I returned empty-handed. But every time he came, he disrespected his elders, his mother, and his brothers. He was extremely arrogant and despotic. Such an unfilial son deserves to be killed." Liang Pan said, "Of course I know about this, but you were in seclusion a few years ago, so I didn't tell you so as not to disturb you." Zhu Hongwu stood up and bowed. "Thank you for your understanding, your majesty. But although I had great gains in seclusion, I reached a bottleneck at the last moment. After I came out of seclusion, I heard the news and successfully broke through the bottleneck. Now, I'm only one step away from the void and fuse with the Tao. This is something that unfilial son would never have dreamed of." The movements of his fingers seemed to contain a mysterious rhythm. "If that unfilial son comes again, I will capture him and teach him a lesson." Liang Pan said, "In these years, your son, Zhu Yi, should not have stagnated. He should have improved. We're in a delicate situation right now. Hongwu, you have to be patient for now. Returning to the void integration stage is more important." Zhu Hongwu replied, "If I capture and kill that unfilial son, my mind will be clear. I'm afraid I can immediately return to the void and merge with the Tao and in that unfilial son one-on-one. Based on the personality of the celestial sect master, I'm afraid he won't interfere." Liang Pan shook his head. "We still have to prevent any accidents, especially now that the master of the celestial sect has his eyes on the demon race and the Taishu temple. This is an opportunity for the Zhou dynasty. I know that Zhu Yi has taken the initiative to visit you several times and disobeyed you, making you unhappy, but a new war between the two worlds may break out at any time. We must be prepared." After a moment of silence, Zhu Hongwu respectfully replied, "This subject obeys." Liang Pan asked, "Hongwu, will it affect your breakthrough to the Tao integration realm if I stop you?" Zhu Hongwu shook his head. "Your Majesty, your decree, the development of the Zhou dynasty, is above my personal honor. Although I'm unwilling, I won't be hindered by this. Even if I don't capture and kill that unfilial son, I have the confidence to return to the void and merge with the Tao, and it won't take long. However, there are still some concepts that I need to study, and I can't do it in one go." Suddenly, a ball of light appeared above his head. The light was so condensed that it seemed to be solid, as if there were many real worlds. Every world was in the shape of a wheel, and there seemed to be Buddhas sitting in it, chanting the great Tao. Countless worlds formed an even larger wheel, which slowly rotated above Zhu Hongwu's head. Countless worlds, countless Buddhas. Zhu Hongwu clenched his fists lightly, and the huge wheel above his head rotated even faster. He seemed to be using his own power to rotate the wheel of fate for the world. The huge wheel was condensed from Zhu Hongwu's martial will, and it seemed to represent the laws of the heavenly Tao. It decided the fate of all living beings, and its words were the law, unquestionable and undefiable. Liang Pan looked at the martial will that Zhu Hongwu had manifested and nodded. Using Buddhism's karma to understand all living beings, using the wheel of heaven to carry them, using the majesty of the world to rule over all living beings, and turning the wheel of life and death for all living beings in the world. Hongwu, your martial path is finally about to reach great success. Zhu Hongwu knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, I'm turning this wheel to support the Zhou dynasty. It's not easy to merge the three orthodoxies of Buddhism, Heavenly Gates, and Grand Emperor. Liang Pan said, however, if I directly look and sense it now, I can indeed find some areas that are not in harmony. You really need more time to study and study. Zhu Hongwu answered, these three orthodoxies indeed have their unique areas, and I can't say that I've completely merged them. However, there's no need for this. I only need to choose the concepts that suit me. Liang Pan said, this is a matter of course. He then looked at the huge wheel of heaven above Zhu Hongwu's head and frowned slightly. The problem seems to be with the Buddhist path of karma. Zhu Hongwu nodded. The path of karma itself is rather complicated. Back when we annihilated the Tempest Temple, the Mahavajrayana Sutra of the 5 realized sutras was lost. The Immovable Buddha Sutra also lacks the general principles and the Immovable Lord's secret 10,000 techniques fundamental seal. Therefore, I'm still lacking in the study of the Buddhist path of karma. However, I've obtained the Immovable Lord's secret 10,000 techniques fundamental seal from the Taishu Temple. I've already gained a deeper understanding of the path of karma. With a little more time to accumulate, I'll be able to succeed. At that time, I'll also be able to advance into the realm of path integration. Liang Pan sighed. It's a pity that the Mahavajrayana Sutra has been completely lost since the war between the two worlds 4,600 years ago. I heard that even the Golden Cicada doesn't have a complete copy. It lacks the general principles and the Mahavajrayana Sutra fifth seal. If you have this magical power, Hongwu, your strength will be able to go up another level. Moreover, with the complete 5 realized sutra, it'll be even easier for you to break through to the realm of path integration. Liang Pan's gaze was calm. That Sangtian Dao, Jian has also fallen into the hands of Xianmen Tianzong. It should contain the inheritance of the ancient heavenly gates, great 9 heavens, divine sword. If it falls into your hands, I believe it'll be helpful for you to comprehend the grand heavenly Tao. Zhu Hongwu said, there'll be opportunities in the future, Your Majesty. Liang Pan waved his hand. You'll have to bear with the matter regarding your son, Zhu Yi, for now. Zhu Hongwu bowed and replied, Your Majesty, since you've spoken, I'll let that unfilial son live for a few more days. Continue your cultivation. When you've succeeded, I'll celebrate for you. Liang Pan nodded. Zhu Hongwu's silhouette gradually disappeared before his eyes. I thank Your Majesty for your kindness. Liang Pan sat cross-legged on the dragon throne. He looked at the golden table in front of him in silence. After a while, he said faintly, Come in. A monk who looked like a middle-aged man appeared in the main hall. He put his palms together and bowed to Liang Pan, who was high up in the air. Dakong greets Your Majesty. The person who came was the former upper echelon of the great Thunderclap Monastery. He was an expert of the Golden Body, second level of Buddhism, Monk Dakong. His expression was tranquil and peaceful. His body was shimmering with Buddha's light, showing his profound attainments in the Dharma. However, In the eyes of an expert like Liang Pan, he could tell that his current situation wasn't good. 7 years ago in the vast Thousand World, during the Battle of Yingxi, Monk De Kong suffered continuous heavy injuries in the core environment of Yingzhou Celestial Mountain. The Rulai Dharmakaya that he cultivated from Bukong to Rulai Sutra was almost completely shattered. That time, he had comprehended the relic Pure Land of the Buddhist senior expert, Zen Master Zhiguang, through the Celestial Mountain's illusory realm. After that, Monk De Kong only needed to polish himself for a period of time to reach the golden body third level of Buddhism. It was almost a done deal. However, under the situation of continuous injuries, it was already a great fortune that he didn't fall back to the golden body first level. However, if he wanted to break through to the golden body third level, the hope was already extremely slim. Not only was it completely hopeless in the short term, even in the long term, if he didn't have any special opportunities, he would almost be cut off from improving. Such a loss could not be said to be small. Liang Pan asked, "Zen Master, what's the matter?" Silently, Monk De Kong said, "This poor monk's senior brother from the same sect in the past, Zen Master Dade, has been serving as a guest in Xianmen Tianzong." Liang Pan didn't say anything. He naturally knew about this matter. After Zen Master Dade entered Xianmen Tianzong, he contributed a lot. When Lin Feng and his disciple were killed in the ancestral land, Zen Master Dade helped to stop the Shi family's head, Shi Wu. After Xianmen Tianzong took control of the Xiantian realm, Zen Master Dade had been guarding there. After that, during the battle to destroy the Xiantian realm, he even helped the Supreme Elder Shushan to remove the falling rocks and get injured. Monk De Kong continued, "All these years, Senior Brother Dade has been looking for other people from the same sect in the past. This poor monk received news that he has recently gotten in touch with another of this poor monk's senior brother, Zen Master Danning." Danning? Liang Pan's expression didn't change. "I remember that he was the great Thunderclap Monastery's Sutra Depository's first seat in the past, right? He's also an eminent monk of the Golden Body second level like you. Back then, he was regarded as the person who could reach the Buddhist Golden Body third level the fastest." Monk De Kong nodded. "Senior Brother Danning's cultivation is even higher than this poor monk's. He's obsessed with Dharma and usually guards the Sutra Depository. He doesn't care about worldly affairs and wholeheartedly wants to restore the Vairocana Sutra. Back then, he didn't really agree with the abbot's thoughts and had a good relationship with this poor monk. But he's still brooding over the destruction of the great Thunderclap Monastery. This poor monk has been in contact with him all these years. Over the years, his attitude has softened a lot. But this time, Senior Brother Dade has found him, adding a lot of variables for no reason." After thinking about it, Liang Pan shook his head slightly. "Don't stop him. Let him be for the time being. I believe that Zen Master Danning will not make a decision in a short time. After this, tell him about the 2 golden bodies of the Buddha's disciples in our dynasty. With these golden bodies, it'll be more beneficial for him to restore the Vairocana Sutra." Monk De Kong put his palms together. This poor monk obeys. At this moment, on the top of White Cloud Mountain, a few figures were moving. The person in the lead was an old man with his eyes closed. He was Taoist Lord. Opposite him was an old man with white hair and beard. It was Shoichi Dashin. At this moment, Shoichi Dashin's body was flashing with a mysterious and indescribable Taishu mystic light. Taoist Lord's hand seals were constantly changing. His expression was slightly solemn, as if he was trying something. Chapter 1046. Taoist Lord Tai's hand seals kept changing, but they were scattered and disorderly. If anyone in the entire Tianyuan Great World saw this scene, they would be shocked. Taoist Lord Tai, who could speak and move at will, at this moment, was like a Qi refinement cultivator who had just learned Tao techniques and magical powers. He seemed inexperienced, immature, and even a little clumsy. That's right, if one had to find an adjective to describe Taoist Lord Tai's current appearance, it would be clumsy. However, Shoichi Dashin, who was in front of Taoist Lord Tai, did not have the slightest intention of laughing at his senior brother. At this moment, his expression was even more serious than Taoist Lord Tai's. Taoist Lord Tai's magic power landed on Shoichi Dashin's Taishu mystic light, but it did not even cause a splash. There was no reaction at all. After a long time, Taoist Lord Tai stopped what he was doing. His eyes were still closed, but his snow-white eyebrows were furrowed. Shoichi Dashin also had the same expression. He slowly asked, "Even senior brother Tai can't figure out the mystery of it?" "No, I have no clue." Taoist Lord Tai shook his head. However, as junior brother Tai said, this method and the method that the master of Taoist Xianmin used to shake the Taishu temple come from the same source. He looked at the heavy clouds that shrouded the top of the mountain in front of him and sighed. The master of Taoist Xianmin has gone further and further on this dangerous path, shaking the Taishu temple and targeting the Taishu mystic light in our temple. It's hard to say whether these are intentional or unintentional, but even if it's a coincidence, it will continue to develop in the long run. A faint look of worry appeared on Taoist Lord Tai's calm face. I wonder if the master of Taoist Xianmin has a master? If this Tao technique was created by him, then he really is a peerless talent. However, this talent of his is used in an extremely dangerous way. Shoichi Dashin did not say anything when he heard this. 3 light figures appeared beside the two of them. They were Yin Nanlai, Taoist Master Qingyi, and Taoist Master Xinyi. Grand One's Supremacy looked at them. "All of you, come take a look." After listening to the whole story, Yin Nanlai and the other two fell into silence. After a while, Tao Lord Qingyi slowly said, "I suggest that the position of the Celestial Sect Master in Xianmin Tianzong be adjusted from unstable to disadvantageous." The others did not say anything. After a moment of silence, the Grand One Supremacy said, "Let's make a decision after the war between the two realms. The Yudu race still exists. The Tenryu Jin has experienced the calamity, and the undercurrents in the Divine Land are surging. As for what will happen in the war between the two worlds, even we can't completely control it now." Upon hearing this, everyone fell silent. Slowly, Tao Master Qingyi nodded. "Senior brother Tai is right." She turned to look at Shoichi Dashin and said, "Senior brother Shuchi once said that the formation diagram of a 9-light sky-shattering formation was severely damaged by the astral turbulence, right?" Shoichi Dashin nodded, then shook his head. It was indeed severely damaged. However, the Celestial Sect Master is a formation master, so he might have the means to repair it. No matter what his personal opinion was, Shoichi Dashin still gave an objective evaluation of Linfeng. This formation is extraordinary, but the treasures used to set it are too hard to find, Tao Lord Xianyi said. Back then, senior brother Tai, he had deduced from the outer fragments of the formation diagram that Nanlai had brought back. If one of the 9 treasures used to set the formation isn't as good as the other 8, it will severely affect the power of the formation. Yin Nanlai muttered, "Speaking of which, the Celestial Sect Master's life and death formation doesn't seem to have this disadvantage." Tao Lord Xian, he shook his head and said, "There are thousands of great Taos in the world, and each has its own mysteries. After all, they are 2 completely different formations. However, it won't be easy for his life and death formation to reach the peak level, and it's impossible for his 9-light sky-shattering formation to reach the peak level. We have both celestial water and celestial earth treasures. We can take the crystallized celestial spring of the mother of all water, the Tianyi true water, as the water treasure. We can also take the fragments that were scattered when the vast 1,000 worlds were split into the divine land and the infinite wasteland. As the celestial earth treasure, the Tianyuan stone is of the highest quality." Tao Lord Xian, he frowned slightly and said, "But it's hard to say for the others. For the celestial sun treasure, it's best if it's a Mahayana magic treasure refined with the solar true fire or the solar divine light, or the golden crow skeleton at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the celestial wood treasure, it's best if it's the tree heart of the 4 great spirit trees in the world, and it's only at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the celestial fire treasure, It's best if it's the origin fire of the pure yang true fire, or the heart of the phoenix at the unity of the star and soul realm. For the Ketu treasure, it's best if it's a Mahayana magic treasure refined with the inheritance of the ancient Dark Emperor. The dark mirror of the shadow diabolism of the Middle Ages is very suitable, but it was completely annihilated in the Middle Age. For the celestial gold treasure, it's best if it's the soul essence of the polar magnetism. However, it's nourished by nature and cannot be activated by humans. It only appears once every 10,000 years, and the last time it appeared was 6,000 years ago. It'll take at least 4,000 years for it to appear again. Tao Lord Xian, he shook his head and said, "There's still a way to think about these things. The Tao of the solar true fire and the solar divine light and the shadow diabolism are not extinct yet. Although we don't have a Mahayana magic treasure now, there's still hope. There's no news about the ginseng fruit tree, but the Longhuan jade tree, sorrow iron tree, and the divine parasol tree are not extinct yet. The golden crow and the phoenix are not extinct either. As for the soul essence of the polar magnetism, we just have to wait for 4,000 years, but slowly, Yin Nanlai, who was standing beside him, said, but it's hard to find the top treasures of Rahu and Moon. The dark solitary dark beast is almost extinct. There hasn't been a single dark solitary dark beast for many years. As for its skeleton, it's extremely rare to find a dark solitary dark beast with an indestructible demon soul, and it's impossible to find a dark solitary dark beast with an infusion of star and soul. The ore-core of the radiant moon soul stone is also completely extinct. Currently, all the radiant moon soul stone mines in the great heaven primordial world are dead mines without ore-cores. They only produce ores, but no ore-core can be found. Lord Xianwen said, "These two are completely gone, but the treasures of the sunlight, wood, fire, Ketu, and gold obsidian are also very difficult to find. Not to mention the fact that the soul essence of the polar magnetism will only appear in 4,000 years. It'll take a long time to refine the Mahayana-level treasures for the sunlight and Ketu stars. No one knows when it'll be completed. If we don't use these treasures and replace them with inferior treasures, the power of the formation will be greatly reduced. The treasures used by evil Qi Qiongqi are actually very good. According to senior brother Shoichi, there was even the heart of the Longhuan jade tree. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in the Star Ocean turbulence." Lord Tai shook his head and said, "The nine glory sky shattering formation is a formation. The slightest mistake can lead to a huge error." Shoichi Dashin said, "The master of the celestial gate should have the origin fire of the pure yang true fire and the heart of the divine Wutong tree of the unity of star and soul in the past. Among the treasures he used to set up his yin and yang life and death formation, there seems to be an earth-type treasure, but it's hard to say whether it's comparable to the Tianyuan stone. Actually, the most suitable treasure for the Ketu treasure is the desolate Ketu treasure refined by the Dark Emperor of the Archean epic. It was only one step away from becoming a creation realm treasure. The Dark Emperor was killed by the Dragon Clan's absolute sovereign Xian Shang, and the desolate Ketu treasure was completely destroyed. The Ketu spirit spring that the Dark Emperor used to refine the desolate Ketu treasure was taken away by the absolute sovereign Xian Shang and moved into the mysterious sea. The crystallization of the Ketu spirit spring can also be used as the Ketu treasure of the nine glory sky shattering formation. Shoichi Dashin said indifferently, "If the master of the celestial gate is willing to enter the mysterious sea to search for the Ketu spirit spring, that would naturally be the best. He is also destined to not be able to find the solitary dark skeleton at the realm of radiant moon soul stone or core and star soul fusion realm. The heavenly pure water crystal is already a problem for him. Finding other top-notch treasures is also not something that can be done in a short period of time, not to mention that he still needs to repair the formation diagram." The others nodded. The Taoist High Lord looked towards the northwest sky and said, "Although there's indeed no need to worry for now, the master of the celestial gate is not an ordinary person. He has already given us, in the heaven primal world, too many surprises. Yin Nan Lai, Shoichi Dashin, Taoist Master Qing Wan, and Taoist Master Xian Wan were all silent. The Taoist High Lord waved his hand and said, "Everything will be carried out according to the original plan for now. This old man and junior brother Jingyi will try again." The other three nodded, and the light and shadow projected by their magic power disappeared. The Taoist High Lord began his own deduction again, and Shoichi Dashin also focused his mind to help him. Unfortunately, after a long time, the two still could not grasp the main points. After a long time, the two old men's calm expressions became somewhat complicated. They sighed at the same time and said, "Could it be that the Celestial Gates method is really above our Taoist method?" Both Tianjin City and White Cloud Mountain were surging with undercurrents. At this moment, Lin Feng had already returned to his own Yujing Mountain. After returning to the mountain, he received news that Zen Master Dade had come to visit. "Sect Master, this old monk's junior brother Daning wants to read the Buddhist classics collected by our sect. I hope to get your permission." Zen Master Dade explained the purpose of his visit. Although Lin Feng had said in the past that all the Buddhist classics were under his management, they were, after all, collected by Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong. Moreover, they were all in Xianmen Tianzong Sutra Depository. Whether it was bringing the sutras out or bringing people in, it was necessary to ask for Lin Feng's permission. Zen Master Dade was a kind person and stood aloof from worldly affairs. However, as a person who was not involved in worldly affairs, he was not ignorant of worldly affairs. He had always been able to put himself in the right position. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. "I've said in the past that these Buddhist classics are under your management, Master. Speaking of which, in recent years, Master has been magnanimous and allowed our sect's disciples to read many Buddhist classics. I should be the one thanking you." "Umaba, Sect Master, you are exaggerating. If it weren't for you, I don't know when I would be able to collect many classics again." Zen Master Dade smiled. "I won't bring junior brother Daning up the mountain. I'll go to the Sutra Depository to take some classics for him. Junior brother Daning has been wandering outside all these years. It was only recently that I got in touch with him. After knowing that our sect has collected all the 5 directions Buddhist sutras, except for the Mahavajrokana palm, he intends to join our sect. I hope Sect Master will allow it." Zen Master Dade sighed. Junior brother Daning's lifelong ambition is to reappear the complete Mahavajrokana Sutra. Lin Feng smiled and said, "If that's the case, I welcome you." Zen Master Dade put his palms together. "Thank you, Sect Master. I will take my leave." After bidding farewell to Lin Feng, he went to the Sutra Depository. Just as he came to the door, he felt an unusual mental fluctuation. Chapter 1047. The mental fluctuations in the scripture tower were not sharp and fierce, but they were infinitely profound, as if they contained endless mysteries. They naturally exuded an unchangeable, all-controlling, all-knowing feeling. Zen Master Dade couldn't be more familiar with these fluctuations, so much so that he could faintly feel them before he even approached the scripture tower. The Tao of Karma? Zen Master Dade was slightly surprised. Is it the sect master's third disciple, Wang Lin, or the second disciple, Zhu Yi? His understanding of the Tao of Karma has already reached a very deep level. There was no aura of magic power flowing out of his body, but when his Zen consciousness came into contact with the mental fluctuations, the people in the scripture tower naturally sensed it. The mental fluctuations suddenly retracted, and Wang Lin's voice sounded in Zen Master Dade's ears. "Zen Master Dade, please come in." Zen Master Dade pushed open the door and entered the scripture tower. He went straight to the 3rd floor and said with a smile, "Benefactor Wang's attainments in the Tao of Karma have become more profound." But seeing that Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, and Shi Tianhao were also here, the old monk couldn't help but feel somewhat puzzled. "Benefactors, this is..." Xiao Yin coughed and said, "Master, we are studying the Buddhist Tao of Karma together and have some immature ideas." Shi Tianhao also nodded. "That's right. Immature, very immature. Wang Lin and Zhu Yi stood to the side and didn't express any objections. They both looked at Zen Master Dade with a faint smile. But their appearance caused Zen Master Dade's heart to beat like a drum, because the four proud sons of heaven in front of him were all extremely confident people. Their current abnormal appearance caused Zen Master Dade to faintly have a bad premonition. Thinking back to Wang Lin's deduction of the Tao of Karma, Zen Master Dade suddenly thought of something that had always been on his mind. 5 years ago in the vast thousand worlds, during the battle of exterminating Xian, although he had already been injured by the falling rocks, when the enemies attacked Mount Yujing, he still persisted in fighting with his injuries. Wang Lin and the others quickly returned to the battlefield and were trapped by the reincarnation sect master, Shi Tianfang. It was only when Wang Lin became a nascent soul cultivator that he managed to turn the situation around. However, it was during that battle that Wang Lin used a divine ability to restrain Shi Tianfang's red karmic lotus. At that time, the battle was chaotic, and Zen Master Dade himself had an opponent to deal with. As a bystander, he couldn't see it clearly, but he faintly felt that the divine art was related to the Tao of Karma. But it was different. Over the years, Zen Master Dade had never specifically asked Wang Lin about this question. This was because he had a faint premonition that the outcome of this matter would be extremely disadvantageous to him. This matter was buried in the bottom of Zen Master Dade's heart, and no one else knew about it. Usually, even if Zen Master Dade chose to forget about it, he now felt that what Xiao Yin and the others were going to tell him might be related to what happened in the past. Xiao Yin and the others were also slightly perturbed, but during the time when Lin Feng left the mountain for Yingxi, they carefully studied for a long time together and had a deeper understanding of the Buddhist Tao of Karma. The original idea had gradually matured. Zen Master Dade might still be shocked if he knew about it, but the consequences should not be too serious. If Zen Master Dade could straighten out his thoughts and verify with each other, it might be possible to go a step further and understand a new world. Zen Master Dade was also the person with the highest cultivation of Buddhism that they could come into contact with. If he could also join them, he would definitely make a huge contribution to the dialectical sublimation of the Buddhist Tao of Karma. Zen Master Dade calmed himself down, took a deep breath, and said slowly, "Benefactor Xiao, you can speak frankly. Although I am dull, I've studied Buddhism for many years. Maybe I can give some suggestions." After Xiao Yin and the others looked at each other, Wang Lin said, "Master, I asked you about the Buddhist Tao of Karma in the past. Later, I learned something, but in the subsequent cultivation process, I had a lot of different views. Some of them are my own personal experiences, and some are things that happen to others." Wang Lin tirelessly recounted the discussion with Xiao Yin and the others. "In addition to my own personal experiences, we also went down the mountain to verify some rumors. Except for the things that are too ancient and cannot be verified, we have verified everything that can be verified. There are many false rumors, and some bizarre rumors do have internal reasons. They can be hidden from others, but not from us." Slowly, Wang Lin said, "But there are also some things that, like my own personal experience when I was young, cannot be explained by karma. Such things are not rare." He looked at Zen Master Dade. "In fact, just that incident of mine is enough to prove that using the Tao of Karma to determine the cause and development of everything in the world, the past, the present, and the future, is not feasible. At least, is not complete. The Tao of Karma is not the supreme great Tao. It is not the only truth in the world. It is not the heavenly Tao, nor is it the foundation of creation. It is not the eternal of all things in the world." After Wang Lin finished speaking, Xiao Yin and the others looked at Zen Master Dade. Zen Master Dade's expression was calm, and he said unhurriedly, "Benefactor Wang, this old monk has lived for so many years, and it is not that I have not heard of the situation you speak of. Our Buddhist sect has existed for tens of thousands of years. In such a long time, it is not that we have not seen similar things. In the past generations of eminent monks, There were also people who had doubts about this, and they carefully investigated the reason. Zen Master Dade put his palms together. Some things have been investigated clearly. As Benefactor Wang said, it is a false rumor, or the knowledge of the people of the world is limited, and thus there is a misunderstanding. Some things are still unclear, but it is precisely because of this that the mystery of karma is manifested. We live in the world of mortals, and our supernatural powers are no match for karma. There are many things that we cannot understand, even if we exhaust ourselves. It is not that the truth does not exist, but that we cannot see through it. There was a faint Buddhist aura flowing around Zen Master Dade, revealing the wisdom of realization. Although he was pleasant and calm, in front of Wang Lin, Xiao Yin, and the others, he would never reveal the aura of Buddhist aura. At this moment, his attitude was still friendly, but there was no doubt that he was much more serious. The matter they were discussing involved his lifelong belief, the foundation of a Zen heart. Even in the face of the people of Xianmen Tianzong, it was impossible for him to waver. This had nothing to do with the respect he had for Wang Lin, Xiao Yin, and the others, and even for Lin Feng, but the attitude of an eminent monk who could reach the second level of the golden body of Buddhism. Xiao Yin and the others did not care about this at all. Asking about the path was a matter of course. Just like the knowledge of the people of the world is limited, so some of the truth will be misrepresented, and the facts that should be clear in the cause and effect will become bizarre. Zen Master Dade said silently, "As cultivators, what we know and what we have, our ability and magical power are far beyond that of the mortals, but we are not omniscient and omnipotent. We are also groping on the path to explore the truth of the world, and there are also things that we do not understand and do not understand. Even if we do not understand the reason, it does not mean that the reason is wrong." Zen Master Dade shook his head gently. "There are thousands of great ways in the world, and each is different. This is true, but the myriad changes lead to the same destination, and in the end, they all return to the same path. Many people refer to the heavenly way, but in my opinion, the heavenly way is also an object, a will, a void, and also a cause and effect. The so-called heavenly way is the way of cause and effect. There are many great ways in the world, how to understand these thousands of reasons. As long as it exists in this world, it is already a layer of cause and effect. Cause and effect is the way, and also the angle from which we understand this world of creation. From cause, there must be effect, and with effect, there must be cause. Therefore, we can analyze, understand the reason and state of affairs of all things in this world." Wang Lin nodded. "Master is wise. I understand what you mean. But since we do not understand the reason, how can we know whether it is right or wrong? Master, please look." Wang Lin's finger gently sketched a flat stone that was like a mirror in the void. Its surface was smooth, and it reflected a person's shadow. Zen Master Dade stared at the stone, carefully trying to understand the concept within. After a moment, he was astonished. Even though it is only the first inkling, it is actually similar to our temple's 3 lives karma curse, as if it comes from the same source. Benefactor Wang is truly an extraordinary talent. Just by watching and reading Buddhist scriptures, you can comprehend the way of cause and effect to this extent, and even integrate it into your own cultivation of Tao. Zen Master Dade sighed. "If you practice Buddhist Dharma, you will also be a person with great wisdom." Wang Lin said, "Master, you flatter me. Please take a look at this." He put away the divine power of the 3 lives stone, and then revealed the divine power of the realm of karma. Zen Master Dade saw the open gate of karma. He saw a ray of light appearing in a spot of light at the door, extending to another spot of light, and then using that as the starting point, it continued to extend to the next spot of light. He nodded repeatedly. Karma thread. The starting point was the cause, and the ending point was the effect. With cause, there must be an effect. Once something started, it would continue all the way, changing continuously. When it stopped, there would be a result. In the next moment, the gate of the realm of karma closed with a loud bang. The light that continued from the end point retreated back to the previous starting point, and then back to the previous starting point, and so on, until it finally returned to the origin of everything. The past created the future, and with an effect, there must be a cause. The result of the future could be traced back to a cause in the past. Zen Master Dade turned to look at Wang Lin, and Wang Lin said in a deep voice, "Master, please stabilize your mind." The gate of karma opened again, and the light once again extended from the starting point. The light stopped, and its ending point condensed into a second spot of light. From a second spot of light, a second line of light extended, and when the light stopped, a third spot of light appeared. While Zen Master Dade was puzzled, his eyes suddenly widened, because he saw that in Wang Lin's realm of karma, a fourth spot of light had appeared. It was a completely isolated spot of light, and it had no connection with the third spot of light, and it was not connected to anything else. Zen Master Dade suddenly turned to look at Wang Lin. Because of the importance of this matter, he had placed all his attention on Wang Lin's spell. The things in the realm of karma were not real and tangible things, but the manifestation of the principles within. Therefore, the appearance of this spot of light was not something that Wang Lin had done or created with his own mana with other spells, but the result of the realm of karma itself. According to the explanation of the realm of karma, an object would appear out of thin air without any cause. The first spot of light in the realm of karma was at the gate of karma. Only the spot of light was created by Wang Lin's spell. Although it was the starting point of everything, the first spot of light also had a cause, which was the gate of karma itself. And the fourth spot of light did not have a cause. Chapter 1048. No cause and no effect. No cause and no effect. Wang Lin's world of karma had produced such a scene. This was the result of the deduction of the principles contained in the divine art of Taoism, and not the image of the transformation of illegal forces. Zen Master Dade's attention had always been on Wang Lin's world of karma. If it was a real battle, he was no longer Wang Lin's opponent. However, his understanding of the Tao of karma was so profound that Wang Lin could not hide it from him. Moreover, there was no need for Wang Lin to deceive him, and there was no need for him to deliberately destroy and humiliate the foundation of Buddhism. Zen Master Dade looked at Wang Lin. "What is going on? How did you do it?" Wang Lin did not speak, but turned to look at Shi Tianhao. "Let Junior Brother explain. It is the result of his comprehension of our sect's Taoism, and my comprehension of the Tao of karma." Shi Tianhao answered, "Simply put, it is the correspondence between spirit and reality, the intersection of emotions and scenes in an instant, the coincidence between what one thinks and what happens." Zen Master Dade's brows furrowed even tighter. Shi Tianhao looked at him and slowly said, "The world created by the emotions of the heart and the world that exists in the outside world overlapped at the same time. This overlap is very difficult to explain with karma. Because of the overlap of the inner and outer worlds, such a coincidence appeared." Shi Tianhao shook his head. "Then it becomes karma for karma's sake. In reality, the combination of the inner and outer worlds is essentially one with those bizarre things. It is both cause and effect, no cause and no effect, and no cause and no effect." After Wang Lin put away the world of karma, he said, "If karma is the Tao of fate, then Junior calls this principle that is independent of karma the Tao of defying fate. Defying does not mean rebelling and overthrowing, but going against the original principle, meaning that cannot be explained by the original principle." He looked at Zen Master Dade. "Junior has only just touched the surface of this truth. I still need to carefully study it." Monk Dade seemed to have aged a lot in an instant, but the Buddha light around his body gradually became dazzling and incomparably pure. It was precisely the marvel of the infinite light, Rulai Sutra. Neither cause nor effect. Neither cause nor effect. Without cause, how can there be effect? Zen Master Dade muttered to himself. He suddenly raised his head to look at Wang Lin. Your supernatural power? Wang Lin seemed to understand what he meant and nodded calmly. You're right. The foundation of my magical arts itself may have major errors, so it's very likely that I can't keep up with the principles of deduction and explanation. But, after a slight pause, Wang Lin continued softly, but no matter how hard Junior tried, I couldn't cast the three-live stone when explaining the path of defying fate in the causality realm. The Buddha light around Zen Master Dade suddenly trembled. Although Wang Lin didn't finish his words, he already understood what he meant. The Tao of Karma's Tao of Fate and the Tao of Defying Fate were independent and even completely opposed to each other. If Wang Lin could completely understand these two principles and finally make them converge into a unity of opposites, then he could naturally cast the three-live stone and the world of karma at the same time. It was even more likely that he could go one step further and combine the Tao of Fate and Tao of Defying Fate, evolving into a more profound magical art. Before that, it was very difficult for the opposing sides to coexist. But it was also because of this that, from a certain point of view, it was confirmed that there was indeed another kind of great Tao that was opposed to the Tao of karma. The Tao of Fate was not completely the Tao of karma, but the Tao of Fate was on the verge of collapse, causing the Tao of karma to also be shaken. The Buddhism's idea that karma was the only truth, the supreme great Tao, and could explain all the mysteries of the past, present, and future of the entire world of creation was really shaken at this moment. Before today, although the Buddhism had never dominated the universe, and although the Taishu Temple's great Tao of Taishu was known as the Tao scripture closest to the heavenly Tao in the divine land, the Buddhist cultivators had always believed that all the principles in the universe could eventually be reduced to karma. The Taishu Temple's great Tao of Taishu, Mount Shu Sword Sex Khanate Sword Aura, Heavenly Gates Grand Heavenly Tao, primordial devil scripture of the primordial devil cult. Even the demon race's innate magical arts and many secret techniques could actually be explained by karma. The Tao of karma was the heavenly Tao. It was just that because people's cultivation was not enough, they could not truly understand everything. Even the Gautama Buddha could not completely transcend because he was in the mortal world and his magical arts were no match for karma. And if one could completely understand the Tao of karma one day, it would be the day that one could transcend the boundless sea of suffering and the nirvana realm. This was the common Zen heart of the Buddhist cultivators, but at this moment, Zen Master Dade was really confused. The Buddhist aura emitted from his body was getting brighter, but it was also getting more and more unstable. If the people in front of him were not Xiao Yin, Wang Lin, and the others, the Buddhist aura that Zen Master Dade unconsciously emitted was enough to purify and devour most of the cultivators below the primordial spirit realm. When the Tempest Temple was destroyed, I could still calm my mind and subdue my inner demons. But now, my beard is covered in dust, and evil thoughts are growing. After a long while, Zen Master Dade smiled bitterly and shook his head. I have sinned. I have sinned. Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao all looked solemn. Zhu Yi said, Master, I'm sorry, we brothers did not mean to offend or criticize the Buddhist sect. It's just that there can be no construction without destruction. The Tao of the world will eventually be clear, and what should come will come. To truly transcend the nirvana realm, the only way is to identify the path. Otherwise, the path will become narrower and narrower, and we will sink deeper and deeper into the sea of suffering. Zen Master Dade calmed himself down, looked at them, and asked, Have you reported your gains to the sect master? What did he say? The four brothers looked at each other, and Xiao Yin answered, A long time ago, I reported it to my master. At that time, I only had some doubts and ideas, but now that I have some clues, I have not reported it to my master. Zen Master Dade looked at Xiao Yin. What did the sect master say at that time? Master did not comment. He only asked us to explore it ourselves. After Xiao Yin finished, Zen Master Dade did not feel relaxed at all, and the bitter smile on his face became more serious. Could it be that the sect master already knew? Xiao Yin and the other three were silent, and Zen Master Dade shook his head repeatedly. Don't worry, my Zen heart will not be broken. Although it is difficult for me to accept your description of fate and defying fate, I am ashamed to say it. The old monk smiled faintly. A monk does not lie. During the battle of destroying Xian, I saw Benefactor Wang's karma realm from afar. Although I did not understand it, I had a faint premonition in my heart. I didn't expect it to come true today. He sighed. It is because of that day that I have some preparations. After listening to what you said today, I can still control myself, or else the situation would be even worse, and I might directly go berserk, and my Zen heart might be completely broken. Zen Master Dade walked out of the depository of scriptures shakily. The Buddhist almighty of the second level of the Golden Body realm was actually a little unsteady at this moment, and his figure was hunched. Although his Zen heart was not completely broken, Zen Master Dade's situation was also very bad. The Dharma body of the infinite light Rulai was faintly discernible, but it was covered with cracks, like a porcelain that had suffered a heavy blow and could break into pieces at any time. Xiaoyan went forward, but he did not say anything, and only played the role of an escort. The obstacle in front of him depended on Zen Master Dade himself. If he could pass through it, he might be able to break through and then rebuild. If he couldn't, the Dharma body of Rulai would be broken, and falling back to the first level of the Golden Body realm would already be the best outcome. In terms of Tao, the Tao of karma was not filled with fallacies. On the contrary, it was a very profound concept. However, for the concept of the Buddhist cultivators, the impact today was too huge. The more profound the Dharma and the higher the cultivation, the easier it was for them to fall into the heart barrier and not be able to break free. They would have strong self-doubt, which would lead to strong doubts about the Tao of karma. From one point to the whole surface, from one point to the unreasonable point, they would then question whether there was a fallacy in the whole. The wavering of the belief required the cultivator to rebuild it themselves. From the beginning, they had to interrogate the Tao heart and Zen heart bit by bit to eliminate doubts. After stabilizing their state of mind, they would face the initial heart barrier again and then dispel it. If they couldn't dispel it, then it would be another reincarnation and everything would start from the beginning again. In this process, if something went wrong, then it would truly be beyond redemption, and many years of hard work would go down the drain. The Tao of the world was generally like this. The more profound the Tao, the more serious the consequences of the broken Tao heart, because the heart barrier was very difficult to dispel. The Taishu Temple's Supreme Wang Qing Tao was an exception. Cultivators who cultivated other Tao techniques could still turn to cultivate other Tao techniques if their Tao heart was broken. But the cultivators who cultivated the Supreme Wang Qing Tao with a broken Tao heart would cut off other paths to advance. Almsgiver Xiao, please go back. I'm fine. I want to go down a mountain and take a walk in the secular world to see all kinds of people. Zen Master Dade waved his hand. Xiaoyan shook his head and said, Junior will accompany Master. Zen Master Dade smiled and said, There's no need for that. Almsgiver Xiao, you don't have to worry about me. I won't leave the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain. The furthest I'll go is Sand Continent City. Since he insisted, Xiao Yin could only take his leave. After saying goodbye to Xiao Yin, Zen Master Dade arrived at Sand Continent City and looked at the people coming and going on both sides of the street. After a long time, he sighed and went to the top of a small mountain at the edge of the Kunlun Mountain area outside the city. Silently, he looked at all the things in the world in front of him. However, his eyes, which had always been calm and full of wisdom, were filled with confusion. Although Zen Master Dade looked like an old man, his eyes were black and bright. They were lustrous and didn't look old at all. However, at this moment, his eyes were as turbid as an old man in his twilight years. Fate, defying fate, neither cause nor effect. Heaven and earth's creation, all things in the world, what principles do they follow? There are thousands of great Taos. Do they return to one? If this great Tao isn't cause and effect, what is it? The Buddhist light on Zen Master Dade's body surged and fluctuated violently. The Buddhist light condensed into a huge Dharmakaya of Buddha. It was golden in color and emitted red light. It sat on a lotus and a full moon. The throne below it was carried by 8 peacocks. Its right hand held a lotus and its left hand held a bell. It was the image of Amitabha Buddha. This Buddha's body emitted a bright light that illuminated the world. However, at this moment, the Dharmakaya of Buddha that Zen Master Dade manifested was constantly twisting and fluctuating. It didn't have a trace of the true meaning of immortality. The surface of its body was densely packed with cracks like a spider web. The void opened and an old monk appeared. When he saw Zen Master Dade, he couldn't help but turn pale with fright. "Senior Brother Dade, what happened to you?" Chapter 1049. Zen Master Dade's body didn't move as he sat on the peak of the mountain. However, the infinite light Tathagata Dharma body above his head was constantly twisting and swaying, and the densely packed cracks were still expanding. The old monk had just appeared when he saw this scene, and he couldn't help but be shocked. Without saying anything, he put his palms together, and Buddhist light also surged above his head. The Buddhist light above the old monk's head condensed into a huge ancient Buddha. It was pure gold and emitted a blue light. It sat on a throne carried by 8 elephants, holding a Vajra scepter and a bell. It was the immovable Tathagata Dharma body obtained from cultivating the immovable Tathagata scripture. "Freeze!" Following the old monk's shout, the Buddhist light of the immovable Tathagata Dharma body enveloped Zen Master Dade. However, his actions were powerless to stop Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body from shaking as if it would shatter at any moment. He wasn't injured by someone, but Senior Brother Dade's own Zen heart was shaken. But how is this possible? The old monk's brows furrowed, and his hands formed a seal. The immovable Tathagata Dharma body above his head did the same. In the next moment, a strange and profound seal formed and landed on Zen Master Dade's body. Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body suddenly stopped on the verge of shattering. The seal formed by the old monk was the most profound and top seal of the immovable Tathagata scripture, the immovable Venerable's hidden myriad technique foundation seal. Being suppressed by this seal, Zen Master Dade's Tathagata Dharma body stabilized slightly, but the confusion in his eyes became more and more intense. Without understanding karma, how can I talk about myriad techniques? I can't see my nature, so how can I not move? But other than karma, is there anything else? The old monk was shocked. "Senior Brother Dade, what are you saying?" Before he finished speaking, Zen Master Dade gave a fierce snort, and the infinite light Tathagata Dharma body that had stabilized suddenly shattered. It was originally daytime, but at this moment, endless light illuminated the world. Within a radius of more than 1,000 miles, all living beings could only see white light, unable to see anything else. The mountain peak beneath Zen Master Dade directly turned into nothing. If not for the old monk's protection, the surrounding mountains would have been destroyed as well. The light dissipated, and the blankness in Zen Master Dade's eyes temporarily faded, but the old monk's face was full of sorrow and shock. Because Zen Master Dade's infinite light Tathagata Dharma body was completely shattered. The cultivation of this Buddhist monk had fallen from the second level of the Golden Body realm to the first level of the Golden Body realm. At this time, Zen Master Dade seemed to come back to his senses. He looked at the old monk in front of him and smiled bitterly. "Junior Brother Danning, you've worked hard just now. Senior Brother, what's going on?" Zen Master Danning looked at Zen Master Dade in disbelief. "Your Zen heart was shaken just now." Master. Zen Master Dade sighed and said, "Junior Marshal Brother, don't ask. I can handle it myself. I just said that I wanted to help you get the scripture book, but in a moment of absent-mindedness, I forgot. Wait for me here for a moment. I'll be back soon." Monk Danning frowned deeply. He looked at Monk Dade and asked in a deep voice, "Senior brother, you have always had a clear mind and a pure mind. Among your peers, your aptitude was only below average, but your mind cultivation was one of the best. Even though your advancement speed isn't fast, every step you take is extremely stable. Even though Big Sky and I advance very quickly and are thought to be the fastest to advance to the third level of the Golden Body realm, I've always thought that when I look back many years later, Senior Brother did his final achievements might be even higher than mine and Big Sky's. I heard that you achieved the second level of the Golden Body realm and cultivated the infinite light Rulai Dharma body. I was planning to congratulate you." At this point, Zen Master Daning was furious. "But what is going on now? Your Zen heart is actually shaken and on the verge of shattering, and even your Buddha's Dharma body is destroyed?" Zen Master Dade shook his head. "I'm fine. You don't have to worry. This is a challenge in my cultivation, and I'll be fine once I get through it." Zen Master Daning snorted. "This difficulty can't happen for no reason. You weren't injured by someone. Something big must have happened to shake Zen Master Dade's heart." His gaze froze, and he turned to look at the depths of Kunlun Mountain. "You don't want me to intervene. Is it related to Xianmin Tianzong?" Zen Master Dade said, "Master, don't guess. A monk doesn't lie. Master, don't lie to me." Zen Master Dade said in a low voice, "Someone broke your Zen heart, and he must have shaken the foundation of my Dharma. You should know that I can't ignore this." Before the fall of the Big Lane Temple, he was the president of the Sutras Depository. He devoted his whole life to organizing Buddhist scriptures, promoting Dharma, and trying to recreate the lost Mahavarokana Sutra so that the 5 directions Vairocana Sutra could be collected again. For Zen Master Dade Ning, the Buddhist scriptures were the most important thing, and also his obsession. If he could break this obsession, he would have a bright future with his cultivation and attainments in Dharma. The seniors of the Big Lane Temple had warned him about this, and even Zen Master Dade in front of him had warned him about it. Zen Master Dade Ning himself was well aware of this, but he had no regrets. Zen Master Dade Ning stared at Zen Master Dade Ning. "Master, if you don't tell me, I'll find Xianmin Tianzong myself." Zen Master Dade Ning smiled bitterly. "It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I don't want to drag you down before I figure it out. You're afraid that my Zen heart will be broken?" Zen Master Dade Ning's pupils contracted slightly, and his expression became more solemn. "You should know that my belief in the Dharma of our temple is the strongest. Because of this, if you want to break my Zen heart, you must fundamentally—" At this point, Zen Master Dade Ning suddenly couldn't go on. There was understanding in his eyes, but also anger. The people of Xianmin Tianzong questioned the way of karma of Buddhism. Zen Master Dade Ning was silent. Zen Master Dade Ning only felt that he was so angry. Even the Taishu Temple can't question the way of karma of Buddhism. This Xianmin Tianzong, he calmed down. "Is it the master of Xianmin Gate?" Zen Master Dade sighed. "No, it's his 4 strongest personal disciples. They have comprehended the Tao of karma and gained a different understanding." Zen Master Dade Ning frowned even more. "These juniors practice Xianmin Tianzong's Dharma. Their supernatural powers are amazing, but how much knowledge can they have on the great Tao?" He looked at Zen Master Dade Ning. "But if they didn't have a substantial discovery, according to your mind, Senior Brother Dade, you shouldn't be shaken. What did they tell you?" Zen Master Dade Ning just shook his head. Zen Master Dade Ning said loudly, "Senior Brother, do you want me to go to Xianmin Tianzong by myself and distinguish the scriptures from him?" "Daning, your state of mind is now in chaos," Zen Master Dade Ning said in a low voice. Zen Master Dade Ning looked at him. "Senior Brother, tell me, or I will go to Xianmin Tianzong by myself." After a long silence, Zen Master Dade Ning flicked his fingers. His mana turned into light and shadow. It showed the process of discussing Tao with Wang Lin and the others. The light and shadow left behind could show the previous process completely and faithfully. Zen Master Dade Ning was not worried that Zen Master Dade Ning would cheat him. His current realm and strength were above Zen Master Daening, so he could tell at a glance whether it was true or not. But as time passed, Zen Master Daening's eyes became more and more dull. Impossible. Impossible. Neither cause nor effect. How can such a thing exist? There must be something wrong with his dharma. But the two can't coexist. How can this be explained? Is it a lie? It must be, it must be. But fate against fate. What is this? Zen Master Daening's Buddha aura also began to shake. The unmovable Buddha's Dharmakaya appeared and disappeared above his head. The Buddha's Dharmakaya, which was originally the most stable, suddenly had terrifying cracks. The cracks were thick, large, and numerous. They were much more terrifying than the scars on Zen Master Daening's Dharmakaya. What was more shocking was that Zen Master Daening's skin gradually turned golden like a gilded Buddha statue. But at this moment, cracks began to appear on the Buddha statue. Zen Master Daening, who had not completely calmed down, hurriedly shouted, "Junior brother," quickly formed the unmovable Buddha's Dharma root seal. In Zen Master Daening's eyes, there was a blank void intertwined with the fierce fluctuations of struggle. Unmovable. Unmovable Buddha's Dharma root seal? Yes, I should. But without knowing the cause and effect, how can I talk about the Dharma? I can't see the nature. How can I not move? Zen Master Daening's eyes were filled with despair. The situation that he was most worried about had happened. Zen Master Daening's faith in the Dharma scriptures and the Tao of karma was deeper than his. It was not easy to be shaken, but once it was shaken, the result would be much more serious than his. And he himself could not move at this moment. He couldn't help Zen Master Daening even if he wanted to. Impossible. Impossible. There is nothing but cause and effect. All Tao is in cause and effect. How can it be something that is neither cause nor effect? Heretic. Evil heretic. Absurd, evil heretic. The struggle in Zen Master Daening's eyes became more and more intense. He denied Wang Lin's discovery, but he couldn't calm himself down. Even he himself couldn't believe the words that came out of his mouth. But he couldn't control himself. As a dignified Buddhist monk, he had to rely on his own words to calm his mind. One could imagine how chaotic his mind was at this moment. His understanding of the Dharma scriptures was deeper than that of Zen Master Daening, but the doubts that arose in his heart were more difficult to resolve. His Zen heart was damaged and shaken more seriously. After a desperate cry, the unmovable Buddha's Dharma body above Zen Master Daening's head suddenly shattered. "Xianmen Tianzong, evil heretic!" he roared wildly. His whole body turned into a golden light and fled far away. Zen Master Daening's face was full of sorrow. He sighed helplessly. On Yujing Mountain, Lin Feng and his disciple saw this scene. Xiaoyan frowned slightly. "Master," Zen Master Daening and the others. Lin Feng shook his head. "Even if I enlighten them, the breaking of the Buddha's Dharma body is also a path that they must go through. Only in this way can they embark on the path of destruction and reconstruction. If they can figure it out by themselves, their gains will be greater. It's better than enlightening them with words. If they can't figure it out by themselves, it's not too late for me to enlighten them. As long as Zen Master Daening's golden body is not broken, it doesn't matter. Xiaoyan, I'll leave the care of Zen Master Daening to you. Xiao Yi, find out the whereabouts of Daening." Xiao Yin and Zhu Yi bowed together. "Yes, Master." Chapter 10:50. The sudden change in the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain attracted the attention of the whole world. After all, at this moment, the celestial sect of the celestial sect of the celestial continent was a superpower that played an important role in the vast land of the divine continent. Today, Xianmen Tianzong, who was ranked as one of the two poles of China with the Taishu Temple, could really make the divine land shake with a stomp of his foot. Moreover, the movement this time was not small. The Rilai Dharmakaya of two Buddhist monks at the second level of the Golden Body realm was broken, and they fell back to the first level of the Golden Body realm. For a time, the changes in Kunlun Mountain affected the minds of the whole world, and various forces kept investigating. Zen Master Dade disappeared into the depths of Kunlun Mountain. Others were afraid of Xianmen Tianzong, so they did not investigate further. So most of their attention was on another person who escaped far away. After a few tests, everyone was surprised to find that the person was actually the former head of the scripture pavilion of the Great Lane Temple, Zen Master Danning, who was already at the second level of the Golden Body Realm. Without a doubt, he went to visit his senior brother, but in the end, for some reason, he ended up with his real-eye Dharmakaya broken. For a time, rumors spread everywhere, and there was a lot of discussion. Some said that Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Danning had a conflict, and both sides fought to the death so that both sides were injured. Some also said that Zen Master Danning spoke rudely to Xianmen Tianzong and was punished by Xianmen Tianzong, and his Dharmakaya was broken. Zen Master Dade protected his junior brother and was also implicated. There were also people who thought of the war to exterminate the Buddha and guessed whether there was an inside story. And so on, all kinds of speculations were discussed in the Divine Land. One after another, hypotheses were put forward, and the high-level people denied them one by one, while the middle and low-level cultivators spread it widely. In the southeast of Kunlun Mountain, in the area of the Great Hungduan Mountain, the void suddenly cracked, and a figure fell from it, smashing heavily on a mountain peak. The body of a normal person directly smashed the huge mountain peak into pieces. The mountain turned into a deep valley in an instant, and at the bottom of the valley sat an old monk, looking confused and struggling. A layer of golden radiance appeared on the old monk's body, and he looked like a golden Buddha statue that had come to life. However, at this moment, the surface of his body, which was shining with golden light, was covered with dense cracks like a spider web. This was not the result of him falling from the sky and smashing into the mountain peak. Instead, it was because his Zen heart was on the verge of shattering, and even his golden body of Buddhism was cracking. The old monk was naturally Zen Master Danning. His eyes were full of pain and struggle. There must be something wrong. There must be something wrong. If he was just an ordinary mortal monk or a Buddhist believer, he would not be in so much pain. However, as a person who had achieved the golden body through the Dharma, he was now filled with confusion and struggle. For a moment, Zen Master Danning only felt that the whole world had become unreal. His Dharma cultivation of the golden body realm had also become unreal. Even his own existence had become unreal. Senior Brother Danning, what happened? A middle-aged monk broke through the void and suddenly appeared in front of Zen Master Danning. Monk Danning looked up. Junior Brother Dakong? The person who came was Monk Dakong. His usually calm face was also filled with surprise. Other people would need to keep guessing, but as a Buddhist monk who had reached the second level of the golden body realm, he could see that Zen Master Danning was not injured by someone, but his Zen heart had been shaken and shattered. Zen Master Danning struggled to get up and shook his head repeatedly. Dakong, do you believe that there is an existence that is neither cause nor effect in this world? Monk Dakong suddenly opened his eyes wide. What did you say? While he was lost in thought, Zen Master Danning opened his palm, revealing a small Buddha statue. The small Buddha statue emitted light and wrapped around Zen Master Danning before gradually dissipating. Monk Dakong came back to his senses and looked at Zen Master Danning, who was about to disappear. Did the Master of Xianmen say something to you? He questioned the Tao of karma and broke your Zen heart? Zen Master Danning shook his head in pain. I didn't see the Master of Xianmen, and I didn't even see his disciple. I only saw Senior Brother Dade, and then both our Zen hearts were broken. It's the disciples of the Master of Xianmen, Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao. It's them. No, everything is in karma. They must be wrong. Xianmen Tianzong is wrong. But where did they go wrong? I don't understand. Monk Dakong said in a deep voice, Senior Brother, follow me back to the state of Zhou. There's the golden body of the Buddha's disciple there. Let's study it together, and we will definitely find the truth and break the evil of Xianmen Tianzong. You will also have a greater chance to complete the Vairocana Sutra. Zen Master Daning put his palms together with difficulty. No, I need to think clearly. Think clearly. Fate defying fate. Neither cause nor effect. But how is that possible? With a low and painful murmur, Zen Master Daning's figure completely disappeared along with the Buddha's light. Monk Dakong stood there expressionlessly and did not stop Zen Master Daning from leaving. He could see that his senior brother was on the verge of breaking his Zen heart. Previously, there were people from other forces who tried to stop Zen Master Daning. Zen Master Daning had spent too much energy in the process of breaking out of the encirclement. If he moved now, his life might be in danger. What did senior brother Daning see? How can there be neither cause nor effect in this world? Monk Dakong's eyes were full of uncertainty. He joined the Great Zhou dynasty, but it did not mean that he had turned his back on Buddhism. What happened in the Great Lane Temple years ago was because he believed that his sect had gone on an evil path and deviated from the teachings of the Buddha, and he was setting things right. As the most promising genius of the Great Lane Temple years ago, Monk Dakong's attainments in Dharma were not inferior to Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Daning. At this moment, listening to Zen Master Daning's narration, he felt that it was absurd. Monk Dakong did not see the traces of Zen Master Dade's Dharma power like Zen Master Daning did, so he was confused and a little angry at the moment. Xianmen Tianzong, Master of Xianmen Gate. Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao. Do you want to shake the foundation of Buddhism? Who do you think you are? Just based on your superficial understanding of our temple's Dharma? When he was seriously injured by Zhu Yi and the others in Yinghai, and his future was almost cut off, Monk Dakong was not angry like today. However, when he gradually calmed down, there were some different emotions in his heart. It was vaguely fear. Monk Dakong was stunned. How many years had it been since he had felt such an emotion? This emotion came from Zen Master Daning and Zen Master Dade. Monk Dakong knew his two senior brothers very well, and he clearly knew how firm their Zen hearts were. However, the two of them had broken their Tathagata Dharmakaya bodies because their Zen hearts were damaged. If there was no real truth that could shock them, a simple discussion of Tao would not have such an effect. This made Monk Dakong worry. What did Wang Lin, Zhu Yi, and the others find out? What did they prove? No matter what they proved, there must be a fallacy. Monk Dakong's gaze gradually became firm. Senior Brother Dade and Senior Brother Daning's Zen hearts were clouded for a moment, but they will eventually see through it. This is also a form of karma. In the past, Taishu Temple also questioned our temple's Dharma, but in the end, it was just empty talk. Monk Dakong put his palms together. Karma is Tao. When I am not here, you are not here, and he is not here, Tao is always here, and so is karma. If people don't understand karma, then nothing that is not karma exists. He returned to the Great Zhou dynasty and reported what had happened to Emperor Liangpan of Zhou. Then he went into seclusion and meditated for many days without saying a word. When Monk Dakong woke up from his meditation, he took out a Buddha bead. The bead glowed, and a human figure appeared. It was Zen Master Daning. Zen Master Daning looked even more haggard than before. Monk Dakong looked at him and said calmly, "Senior Brother Daning, what did you see that day? Please tell me. I also want to see the ability of Xianmen Tianzong. I want to see what he has to criticize our Tao of Karma." Zen Master Daning's eyes were filled with confusion and struggle, but there was also a hint of hope. He didn't want to believe that his Tao of Karma had been shaken, but he couldn't refute the evidence that Wang Lin had shown. Deep in his heart, he hoped that other people could help him prove that his side was right and the other side was wrong. A ball of light was sent to Monk Dakong's Buddha bead by Monk Dakong through his own Buddha bead. The light and shadow disappeared, and the connection ended. Monk Dakong looked at the Buddha bead in front of him silently and reached out a finger to touch it. Our temple has produced tens of thousands of strong cultivators, and the great Tianyuan world has also produced many strong cultivators, but no one has been able to truly shake the Tao of Karma. Now, it is being criticized by a few young people. Ridiculous. At this moment, someone suddenly appeared in his secluded cultivation room and stopped him from doing anything. Your Majesty? Meng Dakong looked at Emperor Liang Pan in surprise. Liang Pan shook his head at him and said, "For personal and official reasons, please restrain yourself for now." Meng Dakong's expression was calm. "For official reasons, our dynasty is trying not to have any contact with Xianmen Tianzong. I can understand and will follow your Majesty's orders. But for personal reasons, is your Majesty worried that I will be like Senior Brother Dade and Senior Brother Daning? Does your Majesty also think that Xianmen Tianzong's fallacy will shake our Buddhist Tao of karma?" Meng Dakong wouldn't give in easily even if he was facing Emperor Liang Pan. Liang Pan shook his head slightly. "I won't interfere with Master's cultivation. But if Master wishes to go to Kunlun Mountain to discuss Tao with Xianmen Tianzong, you don't have to." Meng Dakong looked at Liang Pan, and Liang Pan said calmly, "Master has been in seclusion for a few days, and there has been a lot of controversy in the Divine Land." Chapter 10:51. At this moment, many disputes had arisen in the vast land of the Divine Land. The target was Xianmen Tianzong and Lin Feng's direct disciples, Xiao Yin, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao. It was rumored that the four of them had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma, which was why Monk Dade and Monk Daning, who were at the second level of the Golden Body realm, had their Zen hearts damaged and were on the verge of shattering. Rumor had it that the four of them had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma, which was why Zen Master Dade and Zen Master Daning, who were at the second level of the Golden Body realm, had their Zen hearts damaged and were on the verge of shattering. Decades after the destruction of the Great Thunderclap Monastery, this former sacred ground had once again become the focus of the Divine Land. To many disciples of the younger generation, the Great Thunderclap Monastery had already become a historical term and didn't have much practical meaning. No matter how glorious it had declined. If it was destroyed, it was destroyed. But to the experts with higher realms and the older generation of cultivators, the Great Thunderclap Monastery was a huge existence that couldn't be underestimated in the history of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. If it hadn't been heavily damaged by Yu Huang Heavenly Sea in the war between the two worlds 4,600 years ago, this sacred ground of the Buddhist sect might still be standing in the Divine Land today, worshipped by tens of thousands of families. Although the number one sacred ground in the Divine Land was the Taishu Temple, that was relative to the world of cultivators. In the mortal world, the number of believers of the Buddhist sect had been the largest for a long time. Although the number one sacred ground in the Divine Land was the Taishu Temple, that was relative to the world of cultivators. In the mortal world, the number of believers of the Buddhist sect had been the largest for a long time. The Tao of Karma was also recognized by the Divine Land as a top-notch great Tao. However, this path was also publicly acknowledged to be too difficult, and no one would be able to transcend it. Even if the records of the Buddhist sect recorded that the Buddha had reached the state of omniscience in the past, present, and future, those who understood the situation knew that it was an exaggeration. However, although the Taishu Temple and other powerful forces had their own orthodoxies, and there have been Buddhist and Taoist discussions in history, they had never truly touched the foundation of the Tao of Karma. Regardless of whether it was the Yuang Celestial Sea severing the karmic luck of the Buddhist path back then, or the Buddhist annihilation war back then, what was destroyed were people and things, not the Tao of the Buddhist path. Now that there was suddenly news that the Xianmen Tianzong disciple had shaken the foundation of the Tao of Karma, and had even broken the Zen heart of two golden body, second-level Buddhist monks, the entire Divine Land couldn't help but be in an uproar. There were those who were frightened, and there were those who were doubtful. There were all sorts of situations. Some people thought that it was just a rumor and the news was not true. Some people thought that it was actually the sect master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, who had found a loophole in the Tao of Karma. In order to cherish his reputation, he pretended to be a disciple to test the reaction of the outside world. Not long after, Another piece of news spread throughout the world. A Buddhist disciple appeared and made a special trip to Kunlun Mountain. Ever since the Battle of Annihilation of Buddhism, the Great Lane Temple had been destroyed. Although many monks had escaped, most of them had met with misfortune, especially the Buddhist disciples with lower cultivation bases. Nowadays, there were not many of them in the Divine Land. Some of them hid in the medium-class world or the foreign space to move around, while others hid their names and lived in seclusion. But this time, there were many Buddhist disciples with lower cultivation bases who walked out of their seclusion and headed to Kunlun Mountain. They did not want to submit to Xianmen Tianzong. On the contrary, they wanted to discuss the Tao with Xianmen Tianzong, Wang Lin, and the rest to defend their own Buddhist principles. To the human cultivation world and the Divine Land, although this matter had caused a huge uproar, they had not experienced it personally. But to many Buddhist monks, the meaning of the Karma Tao discussion this time, from a certain point of view, was no different from another battle of annihilation of Buddhism. Without the temple, with Buddha in their hearts, everywhere was cultivation. To the monks of the Great Lane Temple who were powerless to resist the allied forces to annihilate Buddhism in the past, there was still one last hope in their hearts. If they cultivated diligently, they would finally have the hope of ushering in the end of Dharma and the return of the Golden Age. However, what happened this time had shaken their final perseverance. This caused many Buddhist monks to fall into a state of confusion. It also prompted them to head to Kunlun Mountain to argue with the celestial sect of wonders. Among these monks, there were Yuaniing cultivators, Golden Elixir period cultivators, Foundation establishment cultivators, and even old monks who were still in the Qi refinement stage. Compared to some small and medium-sized forces, their strength was still huge, but compared to the big forces, they were already very weak, not to mention compared to a new holy land like Xianmen Tianzhou. But this group of monks still spontaneously advanced towards Kunlun Mountain, as if they were on a pilgrimage, and as if they were martyrs. Many of their fellow disciples who had not heard from or seen each other since the destruction of the Great Lane Temple finally met again on this day in Kunlun Mountain. Senior brothers and junior brothers, martial uncles and martial nephews, grand martial uncles and grand martial nephews, and even master and disciple. After meeting each other, they did not greet each other. They only put their palms together and bowed. Then, they walked side by side and silently continued their journey. Maybe it was because of other considerations, or because they were concerned about the content of the karma path that Xianmen Tianzong discussed, or because they were sentimental about the beliefs of the monks. The forces in the Divine Land did not make things difficult for these monks. Even the forces that participated in the Buddhist extermination war in the past did not make things difficult for them. Even the Great Zhou dynasty had adopted an attitude of turning a blind eye to the individual Buddhist remnants that suddenly appeared in their territory and they had been chasing. Only the monks who submitted to the Great Zhou dynasty under the protection of the Great Zhou dynasty did not go to Kunlun Mountain under the restrictions of the Great Zhou dynasty. But they also fell into a particularly depressed mood. They discussed and began to constantly examine their own karma path. Whether it was the Buddhist disciples of the Great Zhou dynasty or those who went to Kunlun Mountain, they all firmly believed that the karma path was correct, but they were also faintly afraid. Buddhist Master Dade and Buddhist Master Daning had Qigong deviation at the same time, and their Zen hearts were damaged. This could no longer be explained by coincidence or personal reasons. Was there really a loophole in the karma path? Was there really a problem? This thought rose in the hearts of all the Buddhist disciples. They kept erasing it from their beer, but it kept reappearing. Monk Dakong did not go to Kunlun Mountain to discuss karma path, and he also stopped the Buddhist disciples who went with him from going. But he went into seclusion again, and with him came the message from Buddhist Master Daning. He wanted to find out what exactly Xianmen Tianzong had discovered, and then find the error in it. He could not go to Kunlun Mountain now, but one day he must go and clarify with Wang Lin and the others. In White Cloud Mountain, a woman in green stood at the foot of the mountain. She looked at the group of monks in front of her and said softly, "Master Yuan Exen, "Are you really going?" In front of her was a middle-aged monk in the late Yuaniing realm. Behind him stood a group of monks with high and low cultivations, but they all looked solemn. The middle-aged monk, whose Dharma name was Yuan Exent, nodded. "This matter involves our Buddhist orthodoxy, so we are duty-bound. We have no choice but to make this trip to see what kind of fallacy the people from the celestial sect of wonders have come up with." The monks behind him put their palms together and chanted Buddha's name in a low voice. Yin Mingyue looked at the disappearing figures of the monks, and there was a hint of worry between her brows. "Eldest senior brother, I feel that Xianmin Tianzong is not speaking without thinking." A young man appeared next to her. It was Lin Daohan. Compared to the past, Lin Daohan's facial features and appearance looked ordinary, but he gave people a strange feeling as if he was much more handsome than before. Moreover, this change seemed to be happening all the time. It was changing every moment, even though the change in a moment was extremely subtle. If it's done by the master of Xianmin, I believe it's probably true. If it's just his disciples, I can't be sure. Lin Daohan said calmly. However, the Zen hearts of the two eminent monks, Dade and Daning, have been broken. I'm afraid that they have really found a loophole in the path of karma. It's just that this loophole itself needs to be verified to see if there's any fallacy. Yin Mingyue sighed softly. In the past, our ancestors had also discussed the path of karma with the eminent monks of the Tempest Temple. In the end, they all stuck to their own theories and left it unsettled. Now, Xianmin Tianzong, Lin Daohan's eyes flickered slightly. Actually, after reading the Buddhist scriptures all these years, I have more and more questions about the path of karma. However, like the ancestors, the questions are still questions, and there's no substantial progress. Based on my personal premonition, this time it's very likely that this will really be the destruction of Buddhism again. Slowly, he said, and for Xianmin Tianzong, if this matter isn't handled well, the impact will be extraordinarily far-reaching. It's not just a problem for Buddhism. Yin Mingyue nodded her head. Today, they can break the Buddhist Tao of karma. Tomorrow, they can also break the orthodoxy of other forces. In the long run, it is very likely that the celestial sect of Xianmin will fall into isolation, and even the forces that are on good terms with them will gradually be separated from them. Let's not talk about the fetters that exceed interests and the fear of power. However, this involves the struggle of the great Tao, which is the foundation of a sect, and it's enough to make other forces fear Xianmin Tianzong greatly. In reality, many forces in the Divine Land were actually paying attention to the development of the monk's journey to Kunlun Mountain. From a rational point of view, they hoped that the final result would be that Xianmin Tianzong made a big mistake. It didn't matter if Xianmin Tianzong was embarrassed or not. The key was that their crushing attitude towards other orthodoxies was undeniable and frightening. The path of karma was already one of the top great Tao truths in the Divine Land. At least in terms of concept, even the Taishu Temple had not been able to shake it after so many years. In the imperial palace of West Hill City of the Great Qin Dynasty, Monarch Ruyang Shi Zhongmao snorted. It's fine if the master of Taoist Xianmin says it himself. Although his disciples are powerful and have amazing combat abilities, they have only cultivated for a few years. How much knowledge and understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth can they casually slander someone else's orthodoxy that has been passed down for 10,000 years? Naming monarch Shi Zongtong shook his head. Perhaps it's the master of Taoist Xuanmin's own idea. However, he cherishes his reputation, so he pretended to use his disciples to leave a way out for himself. Anliang monarch Shi Zongyue said hesitantly, but Buddhist monk Dade and Buddhist monk Daning are among the top Buddhist monks in the world. Even they, Shi Zongmao said, although their cultivation is high, they are only at Golden Body Tier 2. They don't represent the top level of Buddhism. Not to mention that Gautama Buddha is still alive. Even if one of the 10 disciples of Gautama Buddha were still alive, they would definitely be able to refute Xianmin Tianzong's fallacy. Not to mention the Great Lane Temple from 4,600 years ago. Even the Great Lane Temple before the War of Extinction of the Laws had Golden Body Tier 3 experts. They would definitely not be able to be so presumptuous. Jingfeng monarch Shilin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "What if it's the master of Taoist Xuanmen's advice?" The hall suddenly fell silent. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.